Okay, we are live now, and I'll just get that.
Oh, a 60 just died.
Oh no,
HC
It's a
Kill Touch.
sign.
it is a sign.
No,
Kill
Kill Touch
Touch?
died?
Oh no!
Oh, dude.
I didn't get the notification.
He was one of our best geared rogues.
Kill
Touch
Touch?
died.
Oh no!
Oh,
He
dude.
died to an axe thrower.
Oh, were they
Oh
in
no, are you
LBRS?
serious?
And ZG knows Gurabashi axe thrower.
What the hell is he doing in CG?
His last words were, "He had a dumb fail."
What the? Oh, maybe he was trying to farm. What's it called? The
Bloodvine.
Bloodvine.
Hopefully not.
Oh.
I didn't get the notification.
Just did it then.
No, the 60 dying.
Hardcore, yeah.
Well, he's this is a horde. I don't know if you're on the alliance side.
Oh, Horde. Yep.
I'll send you the link.
Nah, I originally started leveling Horde, but I saw there was no end game on it, so I swapped. Horde's way better.
Sure.
Okie dokie. I think we're pretty much good. Very good, very good. Give me one more sec. Sorry, guys, I know this is frustrating at times.
Is anyone here? Oh, well, never mind. I'll ask in the
What?
pod. I'll ask. I'll find out in the pod.
All good. I'm
yes,
ready to go.
I
You
am
guys ready to go?
single, and I would be interested. So let me know.
Sorry about the false start. Let's do this. I will fire us up.
Dead nudes.
Here we go. Okay, so you somewhat have to have been living under a rock to have not noticed what's been going on within the Classic WoW community over the last, I'd say, 2 months in particular. There's been an absolute rise in the tide of popularity of hardcore World of Warcraft, or classic World of Warcraft, I should say. So many of you have been aware of this style of play for a long, long time. Look, it's really been around for what feels like a couple of years now, maybe 18 months. I'm not so sure. Elenia will be able to let us know about the history of it. But talk about red hot. Just everyone and their mother has decided to give hardcore a chance. And I've had more and more listeners pop up over the last 3 or 4 months, sort of say, Josh, are you going to try hardcore? Are you going to try it? You're going to try it? And I was a long time holdout. And I really sort of said, fuck, if they get me, they'll get everyone. Well, they finally got me. And I tried it out, and I really, really did enjoy it. And so I thought it would be remiss of me not to discuss this on the podcast. And people have been waiting for this conversation for a long time, thinking, God, what's Josh got against hardcore? Well, we're here discussing it today with a boatload of Countdown regulars. So happy to have people here, and some first-timers as well, which is always something that I love to see on the show. So let's introduce everyone and talk some hardcore classic WoW. And I've already mentioned her name. We all know her. We all love her. The wonderful Elenia. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Good morning. Still a little scratchy after just coming in after having a nap from the last hardcore All-Stars circuit. But I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, no, we absolutely thank you for it, mate. You've burnt the midnight oil. You were up to 3 a.m. It's now 8 a.m. where you are, so just 5 hours worth of sleep under your belt. But you guys had a big event that I'm sure we'll talk about very, very soon. How did it go? Were you happy with it?
We survived. Hooray!
Good stuff. Well, that's the aim of the game.
That was an accomplishment.
Very
we had
good.
a great time. It was fantastic.
Very good. All right, let's introduce our other people who have been on the show before. Tim, my friend, how are you?
Doing great. Yeah, loving the hardcore scene. I will be playing a bit. I don't usually play while I'm on the podcast, but I wanted to do it here in case I died, so you guys can hear me cry a bit.
All good, all good. Crix is here in the audience. Fuck, it's all happening, guys. Very good. What up, Crix? How you going? Lich, what's up, brother? How you going? Now let's also welcome back. Fuck, it's been a while between drinks, but I always love talking to him. He's been in the fucking Countdown community for years. Tito, brother, how are you?
Good. Yeah, good. I am excited to be chatting.
You sound like you're busting out of your skin, mate.
Yeah, I'm distracted, but yeah, no, I'm excited. hardcore's got me fucking addicted. I'm spending way too much time on it. So
Very good. Yeah, we will talk about the addictive side of it for sure as well. Now let's introduce what I believe are the first timers. They can correct me if I'm wrong. Guys, thank you so much for putting your hands up for this. Kagar, how's things?
I'm good, Josh. I'm good. I haven't talked to you. We talked one time about New World way back when that was coming out, but I haven't been on there since with you. So I'm really excited to be here and talk some hardcore. I'm loving it right now. Absolutely loving it.
Very good. Sorry, that's my bad. I do remember you mentioning that. You had been on the show talking about New World, but first, obviously a debut talking about World of Warcraft, which is a funny one, given that's mostly what we do here. So it'll be good to have you, mate. And someone who has been jumping on and watching my streams of hardcore and hopefully enjoying watching me try and get a fucking grasp of it. Gecko Mayhem, how are you, mate?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Josh. Yeah, I'm a first-time guest, but I've been listening to the show since the beginning.
Very good. OG listener, we love to see it. All right, guys, look, let's get fucking stuck right into it. I think it's best just to start rather general, as we do, and we'll get more niche. Before we go into the history of hardcore, like I said, most people are generally, I think, pretty familiar with it. I just wanted to talk about that addictiveness of the play style, and I'll give you guys a little 2-minute spiel about my initial thoughts on it, and we'll just sort of piggyback off of each other from there with how you felt with maybe the first time you tried hardcore or how you feel about it now. I was very, very hesitant to play hardcore, and the reason I gave was always the same on stream. It was just, if I had to delete a character, I don't know what I would do with myself. I am a very, very angry gamer at the best of times, which would come as a shock to a lot of listeners because I don't know, I would think people are like, oh, Josh, you sound relatively, cool, calm and collected on the show. I can't see you having your fucking angry gamer moments and throwing monitors out the window. And whilst obviously that's hyperbolic, I definitely do get very, very angry when it comes to, gaming or competitiveness or what have you. And I've always given the example of what I'm like when I play sports IRL. I'm the worst fucking person you will ever play basketball with, and everyone who listens to this podcast right now and plays basketball will know what I'm talking about. You go down for a pickup game, there's always that one fuckwit who just swears his fucking head off the whole time. Everything is cunt this and fuck that. Every time they miss a shot, every time they fucking turn the ball over, it's fucking shit. Fucking why'd you do that, you dumb cunt, blah, 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 blah. I'm just an angry, aggressive man, more so with basketball than rugby. But I translate that a little bit to video gaming as well, and I'm mostly more like this off-stream than on-stream, where I get very upset. It's more with myself. I don't get down on others. I get down on myself. Call myself a fucking idiot. Why'd you do that? That was a fucking dumb thing to do, blah, blah, blah. And I just think if I died in hardcore and I came to that moment where you really sat with the results of your decisions and you fucked up on a mob and now you had to hit that delete button, I would just lose my fucking shit. And I've sort of joked, but being half serious, I don't know if I could do a second character. And everyone listens in and goes, no, Josh, that's the addictive side of it. You'll absolutely want to go again. It's the meme. Let's go again. We go again. I honestly don't know what I'll do when I come to those crossroads. My character is still alive at level 23, 24 and fucking feeling fine, so I'm laughing. But that's what's kept me away, is just that hesitation. I'm sure that resonates with a lot of you on the call. So I'll just kind of open it up to the floor. And guys, first in, best dressed. We're all friends here. We can all shout over the top of each other and let each other speak or what have you. We'll be relatively polite. But does that hit home for you guys when you think about the first time that you dived into hardcore?
Absolutely. It hurts, but I would say that hardcore has helped me reach a state of Bodhi, Buddhist peace, because
Okay.
the first time you die, you're like, it's like a nightmare. You feel like you lost a baby and you fucking, the whole thing. But then you get back in because you're addicted, and then you go, hang on, it's not too bad. And then you lose another one. You're like, oh no. And then you're like, oh, hang on, it's just the journey and it's fine.
I love that. You're like Via con Dios as you walk in the Skull Rock.
Yeah.
So Tito, you've lost characters?
I've lost a 34, a 37, a 18, and a 14. Yeah.
Oh, fucking 34 and 37. And that's the thing. You see, as soon as we all laugh and joke about, you know, and we'll talk about the amazing hardcore add-on and what it does for the experience, but we see all the notifications, and it's easy to sit there and laugh and joke about, you know, the 10s, the 6s, the 12s that we see die all the time. Like, who gives a fuck? You've lost all of, you know, anywhere between 2 hours to 10 hours, whatever, you'll get over it. But it is understandably, when you see the 25 plus, like the 44 goes down, the 58 goes down, and it hurts my heart in the moment, and obviously makes you a little bit scared as you're trawling along with your character. I'll throw it to maybe one of you first timers, Kagar or Gecko. When I say, you know, I was unsure about playing because of how I'd feel if I died, did you have the same feeling?
Not really. So I played hardcore a couple of years ago. I haven't done it since TBC came out, really. But no, my first character didn't feel a great loss. I just felt like I was a bit stupid.
Well, I have the unfortunate distinction of losing a 57 hunter while on the way of Road to Ragnaros. So you're in that hype, and everyone's, you know, marching up to 60, and you want to be a part of the process of everybody gearing up and going into the raid and stuff. And I lost a 57 in Winter Spring, and I had nightmares of it for a couple nights after. I'm not going to lie to you. Showed up in my dreams a couple times. And I also lost a 40 Shaman, which was the first time I had like broken through the teens. So I have felt that heartbreak, but a couple weeks ago, I made it to 60 on my first character. So it is all worth it. It is now all been worth it. I have learned, I have persevered, but in the moment, it is absolutely gut-wrenching.
If I can just press you a bit more, as much as it hurts to maybe pick at scabs on that 57 loss, like, how did it happen, and what did you actually do IRL in the moment when you realized what you'd done?
So I was in Winter Spring, and I was on the lake where the water elemental invasion happens on a hunter. And so I was just trying to do the quest. There's a quest around there. You got to pick up like some like relics or something like that for some highborn something or other. And so I was just trying to dance around these mobs. And, you know, you never think that a mob is ever going to feign death resist until it happens to you. So I pulled 2, and I thought I had it, and I was trying to get away, and I feigned death, and one mob released, but then the other didn't. And those mobs deal frost damage with their melee attacks instead of physical damage. So I absolutely chunked through my pet, and next thing I knew, I was, you know, dazed trying to aspect of the chi to get away. And I had probably sat down to play like 10 minutes before. Like, that was the first thing I was doing for that play session. So I had just gone live, and I had just sat down. I remember calling my dad, who also plays WoW, and being like, "Dad, I died." Like, I can't believe it. Like, I was just sitting down to get into this, and I was so close, and it was really, really rough. But I think I took like a day or two, and then I made another hunter, and then realized that was not going to happen. And then I took a bit of a longer break.
God, if I was you, like, I would have done the fucking... What do you do? Like the Aaron Rodgers sensory isolation holiday or whatever. And yeah, Tim knows what I'm talking about. I would have just been fucking beside myself.
Gotten like multiple tattoos of other religions you don't know. Find yourself.
Very good, Tim. We'll throw it to you, mate. Does it resonate with you? We'll dive a bit deeper into like the anxiety or caution over loss.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I tried to make hardcore characters when Psalm released, right, and like got a lot of hype because they were doing the Soul of Iron thing, and I made a paladin, and I got to like level 12, and there were so many griefers, which there are now, right? Like but there's one guy in particular in Dunmoreau it was a 50-something warlock who would go around dropping infernals on lobies, which I laugh. It is kind of funny, a little bit. It sucks, but I had so much anxiety about dying to that because, you know, you can't do anything about that. And even though I know you can appeal and like griefer, if it's a griefer death, you'll get approved. That's fine. It still just was like, I'm trying not to die, you know? I literally had to stop playing that character because I was like having heart palpitations. It's like, I can't do this. And I came back to that character much, much later when the server died down and there weren't nearly as many griefers. And ironically, I got that paladin to 54 before he died, and I actually felt fine about the death. Ironically, somehow, like
you're all far better adjusted human beings than me, Alenia. We'll get
no.
Yeah, go for it.
It's not that. I think the manner that you die makes a huge difference, which is part of what makes it fun, right? Because every character you make is gonna have a different journey. So, because I had a 24 druid, that was my first death, right? It was like I was doing it as an alt and whatever, taking more risk, and I died because I was trying to finish the Wailing Caverns quest and kill some elites on my own to get the deviant hides. And I walked into the cave, and there were no mobs in there because somebody had cleared it out. And rule number 1 in WoW hardcore is don't go into caves, and rule number 2 is don't go into caves. So
I would say rule number 1, we'll get into it. I think rule number 1A is don't go into towers, and caves is 1B, but we'll get into that later. Sorry, keep going, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, listen, same idea, right? So like I had gone into that Wailing Caverns thinking I was going to do this, and then obviously all the repops happened, and I got killed by repops, and I just was killing myself. It's like, what was I thinking, right? But the Paladin, even though 54, much higher level, that died because I was fighting some like Murkclaws and Dustwaller or whatever, and my dog started, Gambit, like he just started yelling and screaming in pain like I've never heard him before.
When your
I thought he had
died.
broken something. And like I just dropped everything. I just ran to the other room.
Oh, right.
Like, what's going on? I thought he had been like bitten by a snake or something. I don't know. I'd never heard him be like that. Right? It turns out he had just gotten he's fine. He had gotten his like toenail caught in his collar, and was freaking out because he couldn't move his paw. So it was fine. I like got him unhooked and calmed him down, and I came back just as I died from drowning.
Oh no.
And I think that's obviously that's a big part of it, is the amount of people that would tell you that, understandably, you got IRL happening while you're playing the game as well. People with small children, Tito will be able to relate to this one. People with small children, people with pets. I mean, obviously I can relate to you on the pet front there, Tim. The amount of times that I get pulled away from my computer because of a pet thing. It's just all part of it, isn't it? And you've just got to sort of,
it is.
You've got to, get the insurance happening IRL to make sure that you can go as undisrupted as you can during your run. And that's just, if you die, you die. That's it. But Alenia, I'll throw it over to you, mate. And I've left you last for a reason, because if people aren't aware, and I've been very remiss in kind of not really explaining much here. I've gone in with a lot of assumed knowledge that people kind of really have their heads around hardcore. If you don't, for some reason, I mean, all it is basically death equals delete. If you die, generally, no matter what, you delete the character. There is an appeal process, blah, 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 but we'll get into that later. So that's basically what we're talking about. And when this all formed up, Alenia became a rather big part of the hardcore community. She was doing a lot of mod work, getting really heavily involved in the Discord, getting really heavily involved in, now events that are coming up and everything. So Alenia, I've left you lucky last, mate. Tell us a little bit about how you feel, or what sucked you particularly into hardcore. We've all known you as a speedrunner, and now you've come to the forefront as a hardcore player. How's it gone with you and your play style? And as you look back on it now, how do you feel about it?
Well, I think the main thing really that got me stuck into hardcore was it had an excellent community. And for those of us that play WoW in all its different modes, you know that there's definitely times when you just like wonder what you're doing there because of some of the bullshit you'll see going on in chat or in the groups or the toxicity in the guilds. And one of the things that I really admired about the design of the hardcore community was its intent to be a little corner of World of Warcraft that was a family-friendly community and that was trying to genuinely make a nicer place for people to hang out and form friendships in without that going on to such a memeish degree. And I think the community was really good at making that happen, which was fantastic. But as for hardcore itself, the reason I got sucked into that personally was because as a speedrunner, I obviously have a preferred mode, and that is to level and experience the actual open world in the World of Warcraft. And hardcore is a mode that is designed to essentially have you focus on that. Hardcore's value, at least my opinion on where hardcore's value is that it is all about your experience in the world. Like, put away your XP bar, put away your actual level, and live in the now and tackle what's in front of you. And I guess, that joke about meditation, to some degree, there are some parallels there, in terms of focusing on what's in front of you. The mode is really, really good at doing that. And that's what I loved about it. So yeah, it was two-pronged, the community and the actual mode itself. They had a lot of attractions for me. As you were saying, yeah, I came into hardcore probably a few days after it started, the Discord, and got roped into being a moderator with a number of other lovely people like Jordina, who's still actively moderating, and formed some fantastic friendships in that community that are still ongoing to this day. And, you know, if there's that one thing that I would encourage people to do that perhaps are new to hardcore and the hardcore community is, you know, embrace that family-friendly community aspect, embrace that living in the now, and, you know, make some new friends while you're at it. It's absolutely fantastic.
I'll just move on to sort of the next thing I want to talk about while commenting on a bunch of stuff that you've raised there, Alenia, and extrapolating. So the thing that I always knew before I was involved in hardcore was about the community, as you mentioned. I think even again, if you're relatively tapped up into the if you're relatively tapped into the WoW Classic scene enough to the point that you're listening to this podcast and, you know, you read the subreddit and you play a fuckload of the game and you kind of know the general lay of the land, you'll be more than aware that the hardcore community has been, I use the term rabid, but I don't mean that in a negative aspect. It's been a very, very rabid community for quite some time now, and it's been a large community, very, very passionate community I've had nothing to do with, but I've certainly known of. And it's been so dedicated and voluminous in nature. Like, you know, it's all the ways back when hardcore sort of first was kicking off. You know, its popularity was the reason that, like, people in the community, and you think of some of the streamers, you know, people that have really been going hard on hardcore for quite some time now, you know, people like Grays went from a relative unknown in the community to streaming to fucking over 500 plus people on a regular basis, where I'd see his streams like pop up on the sidebar and be like, well, what the fuck? Like, that is a fucking lot of people. And it's because of how passionate the hardcore community is to sort of be involved, watch each other, have a bit of a laugh with each other over the deaths and whatnot. And really, even though they're alone, still somewhat find a way to be together. And there's two things that hardcore really, really has going for it. And as I say, it's people jump in a guild straight away when they create a character, and having that feeling of the ties that bind you when someone dies and all the F's in chat and you have a laugh and all that shit, and everyone links all the fucking gear that they get to all, you know, stroke themselves over and salivate over, and everyone seems to get something amazing except for me. Like, fucking apparently people just like farm blues. I've never seen a blue in my life.
It's skill related.
Definitely skill related. Exactly.
Yeah.
But the community is fantastic, and, you know, the notifications coming up all the time only add to the fun. But then there's one thing I really want to dive in on, which is sort of the second part that I've really, really enjoyed about hardcore, as Alenia just touched on, and we'll dive deeper on here, is the appreciation for the vanilla world. And obviously we're talking about this game in a IRL environment where we're all anticipating Season of Mastery 2 coming sometime soon, hopefully. We're all very much so wanting it. People, era servers, whether it's hardcore or not, are starting to get more and more popular. People are, I wouldn't say tiring of Wrath, but they're raid logging, they're sort of looking for something else. And hardcore was right time, right place there to fill the gap. And what hardcore also does is not only pop you in a vanilla world, which everyone loves, it really makes you get in tune with that vanilla world, because you need to fucking survive. So you need to have your wits about you. And I've really enjoyed things like being aware of what abilities a mob has, being very, very aware of mob placement. And I think the only reason that I'm still alive on my first hardcore toon at 24 or 27, whatever the fuck I am, I'm somewhere in the mid-20s on my paladin. I've leveled that many characters over the last 3 years. You guys know that my main jam has been leveling. You know, why doesn't Josh raid? Why doesn't Josh pass? Or I'm a leveler. That's what I do. It's always been my favorite thing about the game. But through leveling, you know, 85,000 fucking characters over the last 3 years, I've, you know, passively accumulated some form of knowledge of the fucking game in terms of the world and the questing experience. To the point that, you know, knowledge really is your best friend. You know, skill is great. It's wonderful to be a skillful player. But if you're a skillful player that knows fuck all of the vanilla world, I would argue you're kind of boned in a way, and that like I would take a less skilled player with a vast amount of knowledge of the quests and the mob placement and their abilities and where elites are and whatnot. I would say they have a better chance in hardcore than a really, really fucking gun PvP player or a gun passer or anything like that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, guys, in a second. But just to wrap this very long-winded point up, fuck, it made me appreciate the vanilla designers as well so much more. Like this, we talk about this world and we fucking lust over this world, the vanilla game. You know, we all want to go back to you know, vanilla in SOM 2 because it's not a small continent. It's this beautiful wide world where there's so much, you know, shit to do. But God, they really created a masterpiece, didn't they? And we all knew that anyway, but hardcore really hammers it home where you're like, how did they think of this? Look at this quest, look at this mob, look at the abilities it uses. It was designed to fucking tear you to shreds, and they really wanted to teach you lessons and make you learn how to play your class and everything. And I've just really enjoyed it. Now, that's quite the rant, guys. Who wants to comment now? First in best dress, guys. Let's just go nuts about how it's made you appreciate the world.
That was me. The biggest thing with hardcore is a capital H, right? So a really big thing about the hardcore rule set that we're all playing with is it's solo self-found, which forces you to care about every quest, regardless of the experience, regardless of everything else, because you need every piece of gear, you need every little upgrade you can get. And I think that's a really big part of why the world is so intriguing in hardcore, which is solo self-found. But look, hardcore, even if it wasn't solo self-found, you could trade with the auction house or whatever. You still have to really watch the world and the mob's abilities, like you're saying. The first time a min-maxer comes into level and they're like, oh yeah, I can kill the next mob, I'll end on 17% health, it's fine. And they play perfectly and everything and gouging and whatever. And then you hit 17% health and then the mob executes you and you're like, what? I was playing so well. It doesn't matter if you don't understand the game and understand the mobs around you, as you were saying. So
yeah, anyone else on that, on how it's made you feel differently or maybe, you know, the same, I don't know, about the world, the vanilla world?
Well, I'm gonna push that one back on you, Josh. Let's say you mentioned before that it made you appreciate more of the design of the original, you know, vanilla, you know, mobs, for example. You're learning more about them because obviously knowledge is survival in this mode. How do you feel about these fights where you walk away nearly dead, as opposed to when you would be leveling in the past in a normal mode?
It makes me feel so conflicted because, and I was going to talk about this at some stage as well, the sort of how you yourself as a hardcore player do have weirdly some form of control on the dial of difficulty of hardcore. You know, obviously the easy answer is you can do things like dungeons if you want and put your fate in the hands of other players. But even if you don't do dungeons, there's still a different way that you can approach solo questing in the game, whether you go hyper conservative or whether, as Tim mentioned earlier, you happen to roll a character that you decide is going to be a bit more reckless. I've really appreciated how, in the exact same breath, Vanilla WoW can be an exceedingly easy game and an exceedingly hard game all in one. It's all just a matter of perspective and approach. You know, the way I'm playing my Paladin, I am being, and I do want to get into this soon, maybe not right now, but I am being hyper conservative. The aim of the game is to fucking get to 60 and be alive. That is the essence of the hardcore challenge. You know, obviously we can weave in conversations about the manner in which you do so. Oh, it doesn't really count unless you're being a little reckless. Oh, you're a bit of a fuckwit if you don't do dungeons. You know, all of that shit we can get into later. I've put it all.
It only counts if you don't get hit ever from one to
That's
60.
right, the hitless run.
Yeah.
No, thanks. I'm just saying, look, it's my first time. It might be my only time. So I just want to live, as Good Charlotte said. many years ago. I'm just like, I don't care if people criticize me. I'm tuning that dial in front of me, that hypothetical dial, all the way down to easy. And I'm single pulling, I'm staying away from elites, I'm not doing anything that increases the chances of me dying. The diciest things I'm doing are like 3 pulls. You see a camp of 3 mobs and you go, yep, easy done. You know, judge the caster from 10 yards away, immediately start strafing. None of them have a net ability, so I'm all good. You know, the casters will stop following me after a while. I range their fucking frostbolts and I'm golden. Just get that melee away. Keep his leash going by hitting him with judgments. And it's all safe. It's all controlled. If anything goes tits up, I've always got my lay on hands. I've always got my bubble. I've always got my potion. You know, I'm playing a very safe class. I don't care. Just make it to 60. So what I'm getting at is, whilst I'm doing it super easy, if I tweaked just the smallest of things, I could infinitely increase the difficulty of this game and make it not only a bit more spicy and fun, but also, yeah, like I could die in a fucking half second because, like Tito says, I didn't take the execute into account. I didn't take the net into account. And that's ultimately what I think will be my undoing, is that one time you forget to, you know, think of what abilities a mob has, or, you know, you start fighting a mob because you saw that it was, of pretty much equal level to you, but forgot to see the word elite right next to it. I've just, because I've been hyper aware, I've avoided it so far, and I've really enjoyed it despite the fact that I've taken the quote unquote easy route. So Alenia, that might be the world's worst answer to your question. Please, by all means, call me a fuckwit and say I didn't answer the question. What else, if anything, were you pushing me on?
I was just curious because you're talking about, you know, how, you know, it makes you feel differently having that mode, and you being a relative newcomer to hardcore, I think that disparity is probably fresher in your mind than some of ours, for example. That I always say, like, playing hardcore is like flying on a plane. There's only 2 emotions: calm and panic.
Yeah, and I'm not a great flyer, so I know that.
You know, that fear factor we were talking about earlier, you know, the heart palpitations that, you know, you mentioned, you know, hardcore can be like a horror movie. Like, you see your possible death coming for you. And the adrenaline rush is, I think, what has people coming back to do it again if they die.
Yeah, and again, it's a commending the former designers on, this is kind of what I was giving a horrible answer on before, but trying to have come across, was how quickly things can go from I'm all over this to, oh shit, I'm fucked. Like, you know, you're in a cave, or even if you're out in the world, you know, and you're just like, you take that one step too many to the left for whatever fucking reason, and now you've hit the aggro of the mob that, you know, you did know of, but you thought you were cool with. Now you got 2 on you. Oh shit, now I've got to get out of here. Oh, I didn't spin my camera around, you know, well enough. Now I've got a 3rd on me as I'm trying to run away. All of this shit. Oh, I feigned death. No worries. I'm always going to be safe. Oh, they resisted. What were the fucking odds of that happening? You know, as easy as vanilla is, it is a, you know, there's an very crude Australianism that I won't actually say there. It is a certain hair away from turning into a very dangerous game, and so very quickly. And I kind of love that about it. Now, sorry, K-Guy, you were going to say something, mate.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as long as we're talking about engaging with the world, I think it's also important when we talk about the hardcore to talk about the parts of the world that you can't engage with, and realizing that, like, when you level a character through vanilla however many times, right, and you're used to the quest that you do, you're used to spamming and farming these dungeons or whatever the case, or the elite quest, the outdoor elite quests, and then you play in hardcore and you're like, well, just because I could do it doesn't necessarily mean I should.
Exactly.
And kind of having those thoughts over in your head where it's like, all right, well, listen, I could do this, but shouldn't I just maybe go grind for like 4 bars of XP and then come back and not have to worry about it? Which is something that you start don't anticipate your first time going in. You don't realize the actual peril that the world has. You kind of got complacent in how you might have been playing over a period of time. And that was something that was definitely a lesson for me and a lesson for some of my friends who have come and played from retail to realize is they're like, oh, Classic's an easy game. It's like, oh yeah, well, let's see how you feel after maybe losing one or two characters on that kind of thing.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I think that's a really important part.
Go, Tito.
It's a fine line between upping the challenge and being an absolute fucking idiot. Very fine line.
Yeah. And, many people get that white, again, an Australianism, I apologize, everyone, get that white line fever and go, oh, she'll be right, mate. And my biggest mantra, I don't know if you guys have a similar saying that you run through your head. My biggest mantra in Classic for 3 years has been the following, and this is, as someone who used to multi-box and everything, do PvE dungeons with, groups of 5 and whatever on my own, I always caught myself saying this, and I was like, the second I say to myself, oh, she'll be right, it'll be all right, it never fucking is. As soon as you've done that mental gymnastics to convince yourself that the tough situation in front of you is like, it'll be fine, that's when you're fucked.
And then you get that moment where like the whole screen freezes and then the narrator says, it was in this moment he knew you fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. Gecko, let me throw it over to you for a second, mate. Sorry, not to put you on the spot, but I really liked that point that was just raised in terms of, the moment where you come to the fork in the road with your character when you're traveling along and questing and you get could versus should. And, if we're getting extra meme, you could introduce the third fork in the road, which is would. But could versus should is something that I think comes up on a very regular basis for the hardcore gamer. And like I said, I'm being a wuss. I don't care if people criticize my run. I'm more like in the vast majority of situations saying, I don't care if I could do it, I shouldn't do it. So sorry, could versus should, I should say, or whatever it is. How do you find dealing with that challenge when you see things where you're like, oh, I'm a decent gamer, I could do this, even though it challenges that percentage chance of living?
I think it really depends on how conservative you really want to be overall. But the whole hardcore thing is a very unconventional approach to the game. In terms of could versus should, like I said, depends how conservative you want to be. And Josh, I don't think that you were being hyper conservative. You cleared a camp of 7 nulls. That takes some guts. That was a could situation.
That was a bit of fun, yeah.
Even though you did it in parts, that was a could. You shouldn't have done that.
Well, that was like, I felt, sorry, just to interrupt. I do want you to keep going, but I just want to say, like, it's definitely, when you're on stream, you do feel a little bit of pressure to like at least somewhat display to people that you kind of know a thing or two about the game. And like, so yeah, I come across, I'm level, 23 or whatever, come across the ridiculously packed up group of 7 nulls at a camp where I know, I said to you guys on stream, like, if I hit one of these things, they're all coming. But I tried to like Rubik's Cube it, and I was like, no, wait, there's got to be a way to break these guys up. And we found it, and I think we took it down in 3 pulls. We did like a 3, a 2, and a 2. And it was a lot of fun. And like I say, I get a bit of shit because I can't pass, I'm a bad raider, blah, 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 blah. But like, I do know a little thing or two in the mechanics of the game.
Yeah, just in terms of could versus should, I'll take an example from one of my characters, and it was the hunter that I got further than any other character. And even though I haven't played for a couple of years because of TBC and Wrath and all of that, I believe that she is still alive at level 46. I think when I fought King Bangladesh, I know you watched that video clip that I sent you, Josh, and I made so many mistakes. And that was a, can I do this kind of situation? And I thought, I don't have to, but it's a bit of a challenge. It wasn't the lower than level 40 challenge, which is an actual hardcore achievement within the community. It was more, I'm challenging myself. This is the end of the quest line. I've done all the Panthers and the Tigers, and King Bangladesh is this elite. But I went in unprepared. I completely forgot half my hunter skills. I left aspect of the cheetah on.
Oh, it was it was so fun to watch. I was screaming at my monitor. Go aspect.
That's unlike when you're in that situation.
So many mistakes. Yeah, so many mistakes, right? And I thought I was prepared. I took a moment to drink up and pot and just prepare myself mentally. And I went, yes, I can do this. I am capable. I have a pet. I have the skills. I've been leveling for 46 levels. I thought I could. And in terms of whether I should have, maybe I should have, second guessed myself, or maybe I should have thought through it a little bit more. There's also a lack of knowledge. Sorry. Just going back to that point about knowledge and knowledge of the game and knowledge of the mobs and their skills and what they can do. I didn't know that King Banglash, his ads, they respawn. I think it's 20 seconds after they die. They respawn, and I didn't know. Yep. I hadn't prepared myself.
I will say there's nothing like you think you're the master of a class and you're like, I'm so good. I've played this for ages. My main, like in actual vanilla, and then you're like in a death or like dire death situation. It's just like, what do I do with my hands?
There's also nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with skipping stuff either. I know that in terms of overall experience and leveling and all of that within the vanilla environment, especially on Alliance side, you have to clear a zone. You have to do as many quests as you can just to get the experience, especially if you're not dungeon running. So in terms of should I do this, you probably should, because otherwise you're going to be grinding mobs for a level and a half.
True. Well,
I will
go, Tim.
To that point, I will say that there are one of the things I've really liked about hardcore is it's made me do a lot of quests that I never would have before. Because, normally I might do a couple of Wailing Caverns, or I might do a couple runs of things because I'd be trying to get a certain item drop or whatever. So there's a lot of times you just don't need a lot of quests. But I find myself in hardcore, I'm going to every zone I can. I'm doing every quest. I'm finding quests, and I'm like there was one in Darshore that I'd never done before in all my years playing. And I was like, that was cool. So that's one of the things that I think that is really cool about it. It does it, in many ways more than just trying not to die. It makes you play the game a little differently than you might otherwise.
Absolutely. We got farts in the chat. As far as I'm concerned, it's fucking WoW Classic royalty. Fucking love what you're doing, farts. We've got to get you on the fucking show
Farts
sometime
Gaming.
soon. Yeah, love that dude.
Oh.
Rian and Rue are here. Everyone's here. It's all fantastic. Hey, so let me move on to this one. Now that we've kind of given you a good overall, impressions of hardcore and some startup stuff, let's dive a bit more specifically into things. It's funny because when I started up my hardcore character, and this is definitely my my fucking name dropping moment. It's I always joke about the gladiator moment when the guy's giving the story about the time that Caesar touched him on the arm or whatever. I started up my character on Remulos a few weeks ago, and within 2 minutes, Agrend was in my stream chat going, Josh, I need to call you. And I was like, oh, fuck, all right, what's going on? And he gets on voice chat and he goes, get the fuck off Remulos and get on Bloodsail Buccaneers.
Damn it, I'm going to throw him out. I'm going to go into cuties and throw Agrend out now.
No, he's right. He's right.
Well,
he is.
The beauty of it is, I think he was both right and wrong all at the same time, and I'll explain why. So to give you guys who aren't familiar with what's going on in hardcore, the popularity has exploded to a ridiculous degree, and everyone's talking about how the beginner zones are actually kind of getting out of fucking control. And I know.
Kinda. Okay, that's an interesting choice of word.
Yeah, right.
Well, this is the thing. So granted, I probably started my character on Oceanic peak time, which is, 6 o'clock in the morning for America. So nobody would have really been on, early morning for Europe as Everyone globally is kind of on the same server, Bloodsail Buccaneers. But, you know, I did my opening area as a human and I had no dramas whatsoever. Got Garrick Padfoot literally straight away. There was no one waiting for him. I'm like, yep, happy days. There were plenty of people around, just I didn't have to line up for anything or wait for anything. It was all great. And then I feel like 4 or 5 days after I went through Elwyn, then I started hearing the grumblings of like, fucking what is going on? There are fucking, 9 people queued up for Garrick Padfoot and all this stupid shit. We'll get into the queues soon, guys. Trust me, I've got a fair bit I want to say about the fucking queues, and it's not all going to be very popular opinions. But anyway, what I'm getting at is, yeah, I know. Bring your pitchforks and torches. What I'm getting at is hardcore has gotten so popular that I think that it's a decent argument now to actually question which server you do want to do it on. Now, Agrend was right to say, Josh, go to Bloodsail Buccaneers. I'm glad I did it because, the notifications go off all the fucking time that someone died. It absolutely infinitely adds to the fun. There's just more people there, more guilds, more people talking, more buffs being thrown out. But all of those positives come with negatives as well. Like I said, you might now run into queues for mob tags. You might run into queues just for hand-ins, some of those annoying quests where they take a minute or two to reload. You've also got things like we alluded to earlier. If you go through a mine, you might feel safe and everything's being cleared out. And you're like, oh, there's heaps of people here. This is great. But then 3 mobs instantly spawn on top of you due to that population. You're like, well, now I'm fucked. There's always...
That's how I died yesterday.
Yeah, there's a mirror negative to all of the positives due to the high population. So all of a sudden, your lower pop realms, like your Remulos in Oceania, does start to get a bit more appealing on the flip side, where you go, well... It really is more of a solo challenge on this server because I'm not seeing as many people. I go through a mine and I fucking clear it. No one helps me. It adds to the challenge. But then, you might not get a drive-by buff. You might not get, fucking someone to help you out if you are about to die. All of that shit. I want to know what you guys think about the high pop versus low pop option because I truly have felt a little bit of a turn of the tides with feelings towards Bloodsail Buccaneers, particularly in the last few days. Have you guys felt that, and what do you think about it?
I do have some stats really quick, just on the growth of hardcore, that in January there was 16,000 people in the Discord, and now, 3 months later, there's 60,000.
Oh my God.
So I started playing kind of February when it was like, there was a lot of people playing. It was a nice, healthy server, but it's literally like quadrupled or tripled since then, which is nutty. And there's a lot of people who aren't in the Discord, so it's
I'm not in the Discord.
Well, when the big there was the DDoS attack that happened, a lot of people died, obviously, and so many people in my guild were like unaware of the appeal process and that there was a Discord. Yeah, I would say well less than half people playing are on the Discord.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that you don't realize until you're in it. So I made the character that I just dinged 60 on earlier this month. I made it January, and so I was leveling up and stuff, and I was on Horde side, and I was like, you know what, this is calm. Occasionally getting people. Sometimes I had to wait a couple of days to get a dungeon group, and then once I hit 60, I was like, all right, let me make like a low level mob and just run around. I made a night elf, and I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I can barely play the game. Yeah. It's absolutely insane in some of these starter zones right now.
As an Australian playing on an Australian schedule, it's really healthy. Bloodsail's perfect for me. There's enough people around playing at whatever 3 a.m. or 5 a.m. US time, and there's enough other Aussies playing that it's really healthy. You might have to wait 1 or 2 kills to get your tag or whatever, but it's really not that bad. But then I look back at a stream of 6 hours after I did the quest, and there's no joke 30 people standing around on the beach waiting to get Merc Deep or whatever. It's mind-boggling.
Tim, I was just going to mention the other day in terms of that like how long it takes. The Defiance Messenger quest is a quest everyone wants to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right, gets you that amazing chain that gets you the gear out of DM, out of Dead Mines, and like the line for that was like a 7-minute respawn, 20 people. Which means that they are waiting for 2 hours if they're following the etiquette of the line, which I know we'll talk about later. but they're waiting for 2 hours to kill this one mob.
Yeah, we might as well talk about it now. So set us up, Tim.
Yeah. Well, the thing that was crazy is that, like, okay, at least that one I can get sort of why people do it, because it's such a good quest
And
chain.
the chain.
Right. Fantastic rewards. Okay. But there was a similar queue, and we were talking about this on your stream, for the Den Mother in Darkshore.
That will be my
Which
number one example.
It's just a quest. It's just you just like go grind 10 mobs and you get your XP and you're fine. Like
it's so funny watching the queue for Padfoot. It's like 400 experience. Kill 6 wolves.
It kills me. It fucking kills me. Let's get into it. All right, look. I think Alenia will have something to say. And Alenia, I totally, you and I get along, mate. I totally invite you to be a heel to me in this argument. You can tell me to pull my head in and stop being a fuckwit. This is where I say my very, very, very unpopular opinion, even though I have a couple of you on this call that will agree with me. And when I say this about the queue system in hardcore and about how people interact with quests when there are a lot of people around, a lot of listeners who have been listening to me for years will, I think will really be a little bit taken aback or shocked by my stance on this and think of me as a little bit of an ogre. This is going to be, to them, one of the more toxic things I've ever said on the show. But it's just the way I feel about this, and the guys have already sort of softly brought it up. But whilst I am very much so a romantic with Vanilla WoW, and I am that guy. I love doing all the quests. I don't like skipping quests just because there was someone else doing it. I am the person that likes to tick it off, even if it means coming back later, even if it means waiting 15 minutes. Fuck it, I'll wait. I like to be a bit of a completionist. It's all good. I get that. But there's a point of no return of silliness when you're kind of doing this. And this is where, whilst I don't really subscribe to the min-maxy, more toxic style of gameplay, I don't think this is toxic, but more min-maxy style of WoW gameplay, I generally don't do it, but sometimes I dip my feet in the water. And with how popular hardcore has gotten, like the guys have said, a lot of these very, very simple quests, generic quests, that aren't part of some epic chain that reward a blue at the end, blah, 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 are getting so many people lining up to tag a mob that, as they say, if you actually do the calculations, it is now going to take anywhere upwards of 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. If everyone in that queue maintains decorum and no one breaks etiquette, then you're still waiting 90 minutes. When you throw in the X factor of obviously during that 90 minutes, how many people are going to come along and break etiquette because they feel that this is silly and they're just going to go for gold.
Whoa. Are you implying WoW gamers would dare?
I know. Fucking buckle up, buckaroos. I'm going to suggest that some people don't exactly play by the rules.
Next thing you're going to tell me level 60s gank lobies.
I know. So here's the thing, and again, apologies for how long it takes me to make these points, but what I'm trying to say is I don't understand, unless you are that person who is so hyper married to completionism, I don't understand when I see a queue for a mob tag, a quest mob, or a quest turn in. If it's anything, I've said this on stream, I'm like, if there are more than 2 people waiting and I know that it's more than 10 minutes, even that I think is too much. But if it's more than that, I'm fucking out of there. As Tito said, I've played the game enough that I know if I skip this quest and I just literally turn 20 meters down to my right and kill 6, 7, 8, 9 wolves, it will be the equivalent of experience, and it'll take me fucking 3 minutes and I'm done. Now, I will say this in defense of some people. I know that hardcore is bringing in a lot of first timers to World of Warcraft, and that's what people have been telling me. Hey, it's not just like new players to vanilla. I feel like we're getting new WoW players. That's brilliant. That's fantastic. If they don't know the game, I have much more leeway there in terms of respect. They see a queue, they don't know how long they'll be there, they want to do, fine. This is not directed at them. This is directed at the players who have played vanilla a bunch, who fucking know the game, who probably should know better than to get in a queue. you are inviting people to fuck with you. And it gets to the point where I'm like, if you get in a queue for a quest, as much as you think you're being the good guy and you're obeying social decorum and all of that stuff, the joke is on you when someone jumps the queue. It's not on them. It's on you. Are they a quote unquote bad person or a shitty dude for fucking jumping the queue? Yes and no, but you should have seen it coming. And as I say, it's that calculation where you go, there are 10 people in line with me right now. If every single one of them abides by online, like as much decorum as online anonymity can afford, and they all do the right thing, I'm waiting here 30 minutes. But during that 30 minutes, if 10 people come along and jump the queue and add 30 more minutes onto your wait time, and you continue to watch this happening, continue to watch this happen, I just don't know what to tell you. I feel like a bad guy for saying, like, what the fuck are you doing? Go and do something else. And now I sound toxic when I say that. But does this, please feel free, guys, if you disagree with me, to say so. How do you feel about all the queues you've seen for all these quests?
How does it really impact your game, though? I mean,
it doesn't. It doesn't, and that's a fine point.
Right. If you see a queue of people standing there, you can just imagine they're a bunch of Brits, because I heard that they love queues. But really, you know, as veteran players, as seasoned players, we're coming in and we're, like I said earlier, you need to do as many quests as possible if you're getting experience through quests and zones, right? And if you're not doing dungeons and you're just trying to get as much experience as you can to level your character, hope for some green drops, maybe a blue drop, whatever. But for us veterans and seasoned players, we'll look at a queue and we'll go, okay, move on. I can't do this quest. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go kill those 15 wolves, whatever. But really what it comes down to is you see this queue and you can either join the queue or you can just go, okay, that's a weird thing happening in the game.
And you're 100% spot on, mate. And it's the first point that a lot of people will raise, and it's a perfectly apt point to raise, where you go, it doesn't affect my fucking life in the game any way, shape, or form. And that's to each their own. Totally do the thing. And that's why I say it starts to make me look toxic. And I accept that when you still feel the need to pass commentary on how other people are choosing to enjoy the game. That's where, like I say, I don't get toxic very often, but that's where I dip my toes in the toxic waters going, fucking look at this queue. What are these cunts doing?
I've got a kind of a calculation that I do when I'm in a queue, because I'll sit there. If there's a few people there, I'll line up, and then keeping in mind that Hardcore was a family-friendly community, is a family-friendly community, but with 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 people joining, not everyone's on the same page anymore. So as more people come in, if someone starts to tag, I go, okay, well, I'm going to try steal the tag as well. And, and and if it's going to be too hard to get the tag, I move on.
Yeah, it's more my whole thought around it is, I like to buy insurance from people fucking with me in the game. And the second you get in that queue and someone fucks with you and you get angry about it, it's like you knew what you were signing up for. But like, Alenia, let me throw it over to you, because like I say, what I'm saying I know is a wildly unpopular opinion. When people raise this on the subreddit, they get 100 downvotes for saying like, I either jump the queue and will steal your mob, or I'll laugh at you while you're in queue. It's not very nice to do. It's not very nice to say, and you will get downvoted and booed until people's throats are dry. Feel free to say whatever you want to say. How do you feel about it, Alenia?
Well, community is about finding like-minded individuals to befriend, right? So that's one of the ways that I think personally you see people have like a really solid interaction for a longer period of time in the actual game. And it's definitely a way for them to identify people that are also, similarly minded and courteous. And they get to know them a little bit chatting as you're waiting in the queue, as opposed to, people that jump in. And the first thing you'll see, you can hang around those queues for a while, is people that jump in, people take note of who it is.
Yeah, but what are the ramifications
they make a
outside?
note and they go, I'm not going to dungeon with this guy. If this guy's out in the open world,
right,
and something's going to happen to him, I'm not going to save him.
But don't you think that becomes a bit more of a toothless tiger, Alenia, in hardcore? Because you're limited to how many dungeons you can run, and what are the odds you were going to draw that person?
Yeah, but that's not the point, Josh. The point is not so much about the people that you're going to ostracize because of the way they're behaving. It's a way that, and you know this if you do like psychology to some degree, it's a way that you bond with other people by identifying who is the other in your community. And for the hardcore community, especially the newer ones, the other people that jump queues and do shit like that. Now, I agree with you in part because I speedrun. I'm not going to stand there and wait for a mob. I'm going to go grind it out and move on. So from that point of view, that's how I handle it. But, I've also, stuck around on a 60 to, help guard the community, for example, against griefers when, they do have that queue for messenger. And the thing that you see over and over again is they just see that as an opportunity to socialize. And, hardcore isn't about being in a hurry. And I think those sorts of interactions in the world is actually a way to reinforce the fact that you don't need to have a timer attached to, how good your gameplay experience is while you're leveling.
I agree with you from the perspective of the person in line. I know what you're saying, but I think that your point becomes far more relevant when you say it doesn't matter. It does matter to the person who is skipping the line and being the guy who's stealing the tag or doing whatever. It becomes more relevant because they are basically, it's a solo challenge. It's a very sort of, in a way, a little bit of a me first attitude with hardcore where you've got to keep yourself alive. We see this in dungeons with people will drop group at the first stage of trouble sometimes. And, people might not help other people out who are about to die for fear of drawing aggro and having themselves die and all of that. I just feel like like I say, if you take deterrence out of the equation, which I feel like this does, I feel like a person might say to themselves, well, what are the true ramifications of me being a dickhead here? This character is somewhat temporary. Like I might die at level 32. I might, get to level 60 and then never play it again. It's a flash in the pan moment with this character. I'm not really as concerned about my how people feel about me on this server or how people feel, name recognition of this character because of the solo essence of gameplay here. So I just feel like people will be it's highly relevant because people will be more in tune with being a bit of a dickhead because what's the penalty? Like you're anonymous. You're not really. You're just a character's name that you'll have a new character next week when you die. Sorry, go Tito.
There's levels to it. So back when I was like level 20 or so, I wasn't in this SFK group, but there was people working to get Merc Deep done, and this was before there was like 40 people lined up, right? So there was maybe 3 or 4. So skipping the line back then really had a fair amount of gravitas because there was only 3 people there, and one of them could have been your healer. And in this case, this hunter stole the tag, quite blatantly being a dickhead about it, very well versed and very well comfortable with his dickhead self, as you're suggesting. But in SFK, but in SFK, the priest wouldn't heal him, and he died in SFK.
Yeah, I think
because the priest was like, "You be an asshole to me." There is, even though it is a solo challenge, there is a chance it comes back. If you were a hunter, you didn't take any damage, he would have been fine. But
I'm glad you raised that. It's a really good point, and Alenia might be actually leaning on this a little bit, and I understand it from this perspective. If you're talking about what the hardcore community was for so long versus what it's turned into in the last month, and a lot of hardcore aficionados I've seen sort of lamenting what, the quote unquote good old days because it's gotten so fucking popular now. It's just ridiculous. And I've only experienced hardcore through the lens of a player in the last 3 to 4 weeks. So I might be somewhat tainted myself. And that's where I come from when I'm talking about there's no social ramifications because there's so many fucking people, who cares? But I appreciate Tito and Alenia that you might be right that you know, if this was 6 months ago or a year ago, whatever, when there were fewer hardcore players, yeah, your reputation did fucking matter and you couldn't be a jerk. So I will absolutely give you, you know, credit on that one for sure. Alenia, that makes sense, like in terms of size of population?
It does, yes, absolutely.
I mean, and even another layer to that is at 46, at 45, the population above 20 is quite small, above 30, even smaller above. So even if it seems anonymous early, the moment you get to 47 and you need an alderman group, and there's the only two healers around are healers that you've shat on when you were leveling. Exactly, you kind of you do come into it eventually.
Healers are super petty too. That's why I like being a healer. Like, we remember that shit, hey, and we wait for the opportune moment. Like you saw in that dungeon, mate, we will wait for that moment where you rely on us to survive, and we will just let you die.
And you're entitled to that as well.
100%.
Yeah.
I want to chime in with yesterday involving a queue. I had what was probably the most toxic experience I've ever had in World of Warcraft in my life. Not because it was actually particularly toxic, but because it hurt my heart the most. We were doing the Tower of Althalax in Ashen Vale, right? Where you got to go kill the demon summoner guy.
Oh, that's a skip.
It can be, right, but so I get up there. I'm a druid, so I stealth up there just to get a feel. If all the mobs were there, I probably wouldn't have done it. But there were people there. It was cleared, and there was 2 people waiting in queue. And I was like, you know what? Like you said, Josh, that's reasonable. I'll do that. So I sat there. We chatted. It was fine. We had a good time chatting and talking about how we were doing and all that stuff. And it was a pretty quick response. So he comes up, first guy kills it, fine. We're waiting. Second guy's getting ready to kill it. A third guy, another person joins the queue.
The X Factor joins the situation.
Right. Guy's a fellow druid. He's super nice too. He's chatting with us. His name was Vadir. I'm going to call out that name so everybody knows that this guy is a fucking jackass. No, so he was super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super nice. The first guy gets the tag. Okay, great. It moves on. Now it's just me and Vadir. And we're just sitting there chatting. We're just waiting for the mob to respawn. And he's telling me about his weird spec he's going with. It's like this Boomkin style thing. And the mob shows up, and he Moonfire macro spams it, and then immediately puts me on ignore.
Oh my god.
And fucking sprints away.
Wow.
And I was like,
what happened to the druid code?
That's what I mean. I was like, why? Like,
no, the worst part of that story to me is the put on ignore. That's a whole nother rant.
He was chatting so that you weren't pressing your buttons 100%.
It's exactly what it was. He's like, because I wasn't using my like Moonfire macro spam. I was like in cat form, ready to open up with our equivalent of backstab, and what's crazy to me is he didn't use his macro on the first guy who was in the queue. He waited until it was just me and him. And it was like I was the only one who was going to see his shithousery. It hurt. I was like,
well, now a lot of people have seen it.
You're not the only one anymore.
Hey, internet, Vadir, you're in trouble now, mate.
Yeah, he was a 25-year-old last I saw him. I'm not sure if he's still alive. I was so mad. I had a brief thought of. I was like, is there a way I can train mobs onto him? What can I do?
I love it. It reminds me weirdly, I was talking to Patricia about this, about IRL queues versus WoW queues and whatnot. And I went to get a fucking haircut the other week, and I was waiting quite a while. The barber had an apprentice with him, so he's teaching him all this shit. And so I wait 20 minutes. During my 20-minute wait, a guy walks in and sits down next to me. G'day mate. And he he sits next to me. He sees that I'm waiting. He waits 10 minutes with me. And then the guy that's in the barber's chair finishes his haircut and he walks out the door and pays. And then this guy gets up and sits in the barber's chair in front of me. And I was just like, in what fucking world are you living?
The nerve of that man.
Did you report him to Blizzard?
So yeah, I referred him to Blizzard. I reported his name and referred him to Blizzard immediately. No, but yeah, it's just stupid shit. But this is what I love. IRL, there are consequences. I immediately spoke up and said words to the effect of, mate, you literally have been sitting next to me like I was here before you. And it was all fine because, you get the call out, he sits the fuck back down and I go first. but the call out doesn't work when you work in an online game with anonymity and all that shit. Like I said, there's no ramifications, blah, blah, blah. But look, I don't want to sit on this one too long. We can have a laugh about that another time. But yeah, there's a little bit of toxic Josh and his thoughts on queues and whatnot. But like, my heart goes out to you, Tim, a bit more in that situation. Like I said, I've had a bit more of a respect for small, short, quick queues. If it's two to three people, 5-minute turnaround, whatever, respect the queue. I went to Gecko may have seen. I went to Ashenvale, did the quest where you got to kill the warlock with the guy that has a fucking succubus out and tries to summon the void walkers while you're fighting him. There were two people.
That's the guy.
It's a 7-minute respawn timer. There were two people in front of me. I sat there and I fucking stayed the fuck away from his spawn point to let these guys know I wasn't going to snipe it. They appreciated it. You know, I respected the queue in that instance. And now I'm all over the place because I'm like, sometimes I'll respect the queue, sometimes I won't. I'm mainly like, if it's a big queue, I don't respect the queue. But anyway.
Just hit level 30, Josh, and then there'll be no more queues.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, let's move on. I wanted to talk just very briefly about... let's just knock these topics off real quick, and then we'll get to some more fun ones. Alenia, you mentioned the hardcore all-stars, and I think a lot of the fun part of the hardcore community has been not only the events, but as it can be understood, the collation of the death clips as well. Everyone wants to see someone die. You know, I've got mates dropping in my stream who are just like, I'm just here to see you die. Like, it's all I care about. I don't, the journey's fun and all, but can you go and do something spicy so I can watch you die? It's been really fun watching the skill of some people come to the forefront. I haven't been that involved in watching any of the hardcore all-star stuff, but I definitely know of it. I watched that clip that you sent through, Alenia, that insane clip in Scarlet Monastery, which was really, really just like, standing ovations all around for the way in which they handled that pull. I live now on the hardcore YouTube channel watching the highlight reels of the 10-minute collations of the death clips, which are just so fucking fun to watch. If I can just get you guys started on, do you get involved in the media and the competitions of hardcore, or have you stayed like a little bit away?
No, man, I stay out of that.
You stay out of it, Alenia?
Yeah, out of the organising side of things.
Yeah,
I
fair
generally
enough.
stay out of that. But
do you watch the death clips and stuff on YouTube?
The welcome wagon. What's that? Sorry.
Do you watch the death clips and stuff on YouTube?
Oh no, yeah, I watch that absolutely. Yeah, I'm no different to anyone else. It's always fun to watch people fall on their face, even if it's me.
It is. It's sadistic, but it's literally like kind of why you play. You play for the fun of the death announcement and wanting to see how it happened. Blah blah blah. Tito, I get the impression you'd be fucking watching every video of the death clips.
Oh, all the time. It's a funny way to put the guild's chat and the guild and how everything's connected is it's kind of a perpetual funeral where and you're all sitting there bonding over it. You know what I mean? And it's such
like
a big part
on the
of
ship.
Yeah,
you're on the ship and like people are just like falling overboard in the middle of a battle and just like going, "Oh, sorry, man, be nice knowing you."
It's the hospital where the ambulances keep rocking up.
Yeah, and it's so fun because it's a very big community game mode, but as you say, it's a solo challenge. And I think a lot of the community, while you do have those good manners moments in game with the buff, or you help them out, or you waited in the queue and you've made friends, it is a solo challenge, and the community aspect comes from the joint experience over Discord and guild chat more than playing together, if that makes sense. So yeah, definitely. I love it. I love YouTube clips, and then in guild chat they'll say, "Oh, did you see this stream?" And then you'll go and you'll watch someone stream, and then you see a clip of them where they almost died, and it's a really cool ecosystem in a way.
Kagar, Gecko, do you guys watch much of this stuff, or have you been keeping abreast of the All Stars?
I don't even know what the All Stars are, sorry, but I watch the occasional death clip ever since kind of getting back into hardcore. I'm not playing myself, but I've started to follow the community again after a couple of years. So yeah, just the occasional death clip, and the best ones are where you see what's going to happen. You kind of predict, and you go, "Oh no, I know what's going to happen here."
One of my favorite death clips that just happened was like a trio who were they're trying to run through dead mines.
Yep.
Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about.
Oh, is that the PvP one?
Huh?
Oh, not the one where the guy was in stealth near the mine node.
No, they were doing that like the outside the actual instance part, with like the union cards.
The undead part, yeah.
Yeah, the undead part. And it was a trio, it was like a paladin and a priest, and I forgot the third, I think a warrior. By the way, so the paladin's tanking, and they're talking like, oh, okay, yeah, we can definitely do this. We can trio this. Like, this will be fine. And he goes and he pulls, and it's it's one of those pulls where it's like, ooh, buddy, your body pulling a little close to another pack. And he does that, and the healer goes, what are you doing? Pull it back. And the guy who's tanking goes, pull that pack? Okay, and walks forward.
No.
Oh no!
Like 3 more. And they're like, what? He's like, you said pull that pack. I said pull it back.
That's a fantastic clip.
So good.
That's great. Kagar, I'll throw it to you in a second. Farts is all over it. He knew what I was talking about. There was a clip that came out in the video this morning, which had a group going to dead mines, and a guy went to go mine a node relatively close to the instance entrance. And there was just a higher level rogue stealth there patiently waiting. And he was stealth right on the node. So the guy goes to right click the mine, and instead obviously right click attacks this stealth character and enters PvP, and the guy just fucking one shots him. And I'm like, the patience of the griefers is almost commendable. And we'll talk about the griefers soon, but yeah, that was a funny one.
Rule number 10 is turn on left click to interact.
Yeah,
when you start your hardcore character.
Yeah. Hagar, sorry I cut you off before, mate. You were going to say something.
No problem. So it's funny you mentioned. I actually have been prominently featured as the clip at the top of Hardcore Highlights 13 and 14. So I'm in the Sunken Temple group, and I don't know if you guys have seen the video where the guy asks, "You're not actually going to jump off, right?"
Oh, yeah.
So I am in that group. I am the shaman that jumps down right after the tank jump. So in that moment, he had disabled his UI, and he was trying to take a screenshot. And instead of hitting print screen, hit his number lock key and just went right over the edge.
Oh.
So I had always been watching these videos, and then it was kind of a cool moment to get a message from that guy in Discord and be like, dude, we're on hardcore YouTube. I was like, okay, that's not bad because we all lived in that one. And then the next Hardcore Highlights one comes out, and I'm in the Blackrock Depths group on the first clip where we actually lose a shaman. And the comment section in that one, because we lost a character, was a little less forgiving. So it's been fun to be in the community, to have all the discourse around all that stuff, and be part of those conversations and just be able to be like, oh, look, that's me.
It's a really interesting dynamic. And like I say, I'm being a complete wuss, and I am more than comfortable with my wussiness. I've decided I'm not running a dungeon on the way to 60, and everyone will be like, oh, you're not really doing hardcore, you fucking wuss. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm doing it my way. I'm not putting my life in the hands of others that I don't know. I'm sorry. You guys know me. I'm a very lone wolf in this game. I do not fucking talk to other people. I don't trust other people. I'm the weirdest WoW player in the world. Hardcore is right up my alley as far as solo play goes, and I will not. If I died because someone made a mistake in a fucking dungeon, then the monitor goes out the window. But what I'm getting at is it's been some really interesting dynamics that you see in those death clips of the moments when someone makes a mistake and, for instance, falls off a ledge or whatnot. There was a great one in a Gnomeregan clip today of a person jumping off when the group either wasn't ready or wasn't going to go, and the tank just fucking, very little thought, jumps off as well, mid-air charge, saves the guy, and it all panned out really well for those guys. But it's a really cool sort of ethical conundrum or moral conundrum in a way to put a group in that position when someone fucks up. Will you save them, or will you fight to save them, or do you think it's a lost cause and do you drop group and hearth or whatnot? I've really enjoyed that aspect of watching the YouTube clips.
Yeah, I think it's completely fair to see someone save themselves, but I wouldn't. If I saw that someone had done that, I'd be like, "Oh wow, good on you, you saved yourself," and I would not take them in my group in the dungeon because I know I can't rely on them. So, and it's fine to play that way. If you're looking out for yourself and you get to 60, good on you. But I don't want you in my group, and I'm not calling you a dickhead, but I'm just calling you You know?
Yeah. Sorry, do you mean the person who doesn't do a dungeon, Tito?
Oh no, the person who saves themselves.
Oh,
the person who sees trouble and ditches. It's fine to do,
right?
But you're an asshole. I don't want you in your group. You're
Yeah,
not an asshole.
yeah.
You're saving yourself. But you're an
Are
asshole.
there moments though where it's justified at all?
Well, like I said, it is. I just said it is. It is justified, but I don't want you in my group if I know you're
No. But I mean to push you further, Tito, and go. Are there moments that, by your letter of the law, you would see someone do it and be like, "Oh, actually, in that instance, it was okay. I understand it was an assured death, and you saved yourself."
Oh yeah. Look, if 2 people have died and you're running out, but it's more. What are the comms of the group at the time? Are you working with them or are you playing your own game?
Yeah. Gotcha.
Because the dungeon is where you switch from solo to let's do this as a team. Because half the time, if you were to commit, if everyone committed, you can get away with some crazy shit as Alenia and as these hardcore all-star teams are showing.
Yeah.
You can do, if you all fully commit, you can, this game is easy, you know, you can do it. It only becomes hard when decision paralysis kicks in and, you know, obviously there's RNG and stuff. But,
Tim,
I think you get the point.
I'll throw it to you, Tim, but I'll just, 100% Tito, you're spot on. The amount of clips I've seen where the tank overpulls and gets like 8 to 9 mobs on him in a dungeon, and I go, oh, well, they're fucked. And as you say, as long as everyone goes in straight away, they're fine. It's shocking.
Yeah, that was like Alenia posted that clip from the All Stars, which was great, which she can talk more about the Scarlet Monastery pool. But there was also, I'll let you talk about that more. But like, there's also a great recent Nomergon one. I mean, not great because 4 people died, but they were doing the classic Dark Iron Dwarves part with the mines that always kills so many people, and just got some bad pulls, some pet pulls. It was a mess, right? As soon as they got the extra mobs from a runner, the priest healer failed. He immediately started running, hit a landmine, and died. And and
I shouldn't laugh, but
no, but it was
the mental image is hilarious.
Shit's bad. But the Ret Pally steps out and starts healing everybody, and he is trying his damnedest to save everybody, and couldn't do it. But somehow he gets netted, and I don't know. Apparently, something about when you get netted, the aggro actually switches to somebody else. But all like 15 mobs start running after the rogue that's trying to get out of the instance, and the Pally had time to hearth out. Not a bubble hearth, just a hearthing as mobs are literally sprinting by him. And he's trapped in a net. So he was the only one that survived. And I was like, it's not like karma, like this isn't real, but it also felt like karma that he was the one that was like, I'm going to try to rescue this. I'm going to put my life on the line to try to rescue this.
You know, it's tough when you're in those moments because you can't really predict how you're going to react until you're in it. Mm-hmm. So like being in that sunken temple moment, like the tank jumps off that platform, right? We can all hearth. Like we can just say, screw it. We are out of here. Like the tank fucked up and that's just it. I'm sorry, man. Like it was a good run. But we have the choice in that moment to actively jump down and try to save him. That was the choice that we made, and it worked out. We ended up pulling a second pack, but we still managed to salvage it because we all kind of in that moment. We didn't really communicate that we were all jumping, but we all just did, and we managed to salvage and put it together. Contrast that with the BRD clip when you can look back at it. We don't quite have that option. The one person didn't jump down and was like in a situation where we could all have gotten out of it. We had to try and commit to get everybody out. And we got 4 of us out, and we lost, unfortunately, just the shaman on the way out. But it's interesting when you have those moments where you have to make that decision where because listen, if you overpull in some of these classic dungeons, even if a tank pops their cooldowns, you got like 5-6 seconds max to decide what you're going to do. Whether you guys are going to commit or whether you're going to try to run before you just start getting pumped. So it's really interesting to see when the people you play with and the decisions that they decide to make. I'm one that will always jump in, but I will absolutely respect that you're putting in, 4, 5, 6, 7 days played on your character by the time you get to that point. So if you want to salvage that for yourself and live on and hopefully make it to 60, I will absolutely respect it.
Hey, Alenia, talk us through a bit more, because I'm very unsure really what the deal is with Hardcore All-Stars as well. Can you just very briefly talk us through what the go is there? And then, like Tim alluded to, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that wild SM pool that we saw the clip of.
So Hardcore All-Stars is a league program that was created by the hardcore community, and it was designed to basically create like a longer format challenge for teams. And it's got two types. You've got the dungeon drafts, which are just one shot, 1 day, few hours, you level up in that given period of time, and then you go to a nominated dungeon. They select teams, and then you go in and you compete in that dungeon together. Fastest team wins. The one that you would have seen this weekend and where the clip was from the World Tour, which I'm also participating in with my team, Like and Subscribe. That is a 12-week campaign where you have pre-registered teams. You have to level to 60 over those 12 weeks. And at designated times along the way, the teams have a nominated level they need to be at. There's nominated dungeons for a specific circuit on that day, which is streamed to Twitch or YouTube, and you compete speed running through a set of dungeons as a team. So the one that we just had is Circuit 3. We're halfway through this particular marathon. We needed to be level 43 and a half, and the dungeons we did the last 2 legs of Scarlet Monastery, we did Razorfen Downs, and we did Alderman. And because the points are being awarded for how fast you clear the dungeons, as you would have seen from that clip that I put in the Countdown Discord before I went to bed last night, we're seeing some real big brain, 9,000 IQ, crazy gigaplays, where you have hardcore teams pulling the entire dungeon, pulling 30 mobs together and AoEing them down, keeping in mind that it is still at its heart a hardcore competition where if you die, you must delete that character. I'm sure you can imagine the massive time investment people are putting in to get their BIS gear for like level 43 and a half in this case. There's a big cost involved in getting it wrong and dying. We actually saw quite a few teams wipe, and there's some crazy wipe clips out there as well. But we're also seeing some real shining moments of what hardcore can be in a competitive format, and that clip's a perfect example.
That clip was just SEAL Team 6. I loved it.
Oh, it was insane, wasn't it?
I wouldn't do that on a normal character. That was crazy.
I know, right? I don't know how they managed to get up to the back end of the cathedral so fast, dragging those giant balls behind them, to be honest.
Well, sorry, I got the impression, Eleni, just to interrupt, sorry. You mentioned the whole dungeon. I thought it was, am I going insane? I thought they just pulled the cathedral room in its entirety, or was that, you said it was the whole dungeon?
That was just the cathedral room. Yeah, just the room. But there have been dungeons so far where the entire dungeon has been pulled,
right,
and killed in one giant pack.
Very nice, very nice. Well, look, it's definitely good to know, and I'll be keeping an eye on things, and wishing you all the best with like and subscribe, definitely. Guys, we've got a bit more to go. We've obviously been going for like an hour and a half, and as always, if you need to drop out, if you've got things to do, you're more than welcome to, but I think we've probably got about another 30-odd minutes to go, if that's all right, guys. I just wanted to discuss, this kind of softcore versus hardcore notion that I've lightly been bringing up when I talk about how hyper conservative I've been, and even my choice of a paladin, I think, is somewhat of a thing that might raise some eyebrows. I'm not sure, and Eleni can talk about this. Maybe I'll hear from you other guys first, and then we'll come back to her. But I really do enjoy the customization, if you will, that hardcore lets you do in terms of, like I've said, you be the master of your own journey and decide how hard you want it to be. But it even just starts at the character creation screen. And, there are some classes that, maybe the arguments will always go on over the best and worst classes to do hardcore with. I mean, I immediately just thought it was a no-brainer that if I want to give myself the best chance to get to 60, and I am doing a hyper-conservative run, that Paladin, there was no other choice but Paladin as far as I was concerned. And I think that there is not what I would call a stigma, but there's definitely maybe a moment where people go, oh yeah, Paladin, rightio, you're really living life on the edge there. how do you guys feel about classes in hardcore and, you know, how they interact with the difficulty of the environment? You know, I would never fucking roll a rogue in hardcore. That's just me. I think that's just begging for death personally. But there might be rogue enthusiasts who are like, what do you mean? Rogue's the fucking best. So I'll open it to the floor, guys, and go, do you stress over the character selection screen and what class do you think might be best or worse for this kind of thing?
Yeah, some classes are definitely tougher than others. So the first one I chose was, incidentally, a rogue. Didn't last terribly long. I think there was actually some sort of lag or bug or something because an alpha wolf in Westfall ran towards me halfway across the screen, and it was hitting me from like 30 meters away, sort of thing. It was really bizarre. But I think any class that can't self-heal, any class that has fewer get out of jail free buttons is going to definitely be more challenging. And you can have as much awareness as possible. You can have knowledge of the mobs that you're about to engage with. But if you don't have as many tools as another class, it's definitely going to be a bit more challenging. And that's one of the things I love about the whole hardcore experience is the problem-solving aspect of it. And part of that is integral to the class that you choose and the kit that you get and the skills that you unlock as you level. You are trying to solve these little puzzles along the way, but those puzzles have to fit in to the particular class and its kit that it brings.
Well said. Tito, any classes you won't fucking touch in hardcore?
Yeah, any of the easy ones, because screw that, it's hardcore. I've played warrior. My first death was a warrior. My second character that died was a warrior. Then I died on a warrior, and now I'm playing a warrior, and I've got another warrior as well. So I'm butting my head against this wall until I get to 60 on warrior, and I don't give a fuck.
Is there like a Warriors Anonymous club or something? Like your obsession with Warrior, you and Clevis need to just go on a fucking holiday together. Like your obsession with Warrior is commendable, I guess, but
it's just so fun. I find the thing about hardcore is it ups the stakes, right? And that's what a lot of people love about it. And playing a melee class ups the stakes yet again. And playing a warrior that does not have a single escape tool in its arsenal, the only one really is intimidating shout, but that sends mobs running all over the shop, and you pull more. So
you've also got hamstring.
Yeah. So you've just got to get into melee range. If you pull 3 mobs, just hamstring all of them and hope none of them parry, and you get out before you die. Sure, that's an escape tool.
I'm going to be an arsehole and say the real hardcore challenge is getting Tito one day to say melee, but we'll get there one day.
What does that mean?
You can pronounce it how you like.
Tito. You say however you like.
It's actually melee. It's not melee anyway.
No, it is melee. It's melee. It's 100% correct.
It's melee. That's what leeway is based on.
No. It's look, correct me if I'm wrong. Tim's laughing with me. Let's have the argument. 100% the correct pronunciation of the word is melee.
I didn't realize I was on countdown.
It is Malay.
I'm such a cunt.
Good
I'm
pronunciation.
So sorry.
We need to get Yuzu to be able to say centaur.
Yeah.
He says centaur. I discovered yesterday.
But it's playing warrior as well. We were talking about should have could earlier on quests and stuff. Melee. All right, here we go.
No, it's pronounced needs a pocket healer to get to 60.
True.
Sorry,
keep going, Tito.
There's like should have, could, and there's must or need, because there's certain quests and certain weapon upgrades that it's true you don't need them. Obviously, I'm memeing a little bit, but being able to kill a mob in 3 hits rather than 17 is a big deal as a warrior. And so you do need to, or it's really good to, if you're unlucky with drops and stuff, to go and do these really hard quests and get those items early. And that can, there's a bit of an extra challenge there, which is why I find it so fun.
I am tempted by warrior. Sorry, go on, Gecko.
Sorry, I was just going to ask Tito, are you always leveling as the same kind of spec, like Arms Prot, or are you sometimes trying out Fury?
No, Arms Prot is Wrath leveling. That's got nothing to do with Classic. Prot's trash, so for Classic. But yeah, I play Fury, I play Arms, I play both. I respec, there's certain power spikes with certain talents that you do, so I'll respec 2 or 3 times on the way up. So yeah.
Happy days. How about you other guys? How do you feel about certain classes in hardcore?
I decided to go with a shaman originally, which is what I played on Classic Launch. I had a 60 shaman, so I was really comfortable with the class, and I like rated with it, and I thought, all right, well, I'll play this in hardcore and I'll get the 60. I was wrong. And then when Psalm came out, I decided to go with the Hunter that I ended up losing at 57. I didn't have much experience on a Hunter, but I was like, you know what? It's a safe bet. It can be a fun class to learn all this stuff about. And then once I lost that Hunter, I said, fuck it, I'm going to play the class that I know the best. And I went back to a shaman. So I don't have all that much experience playing too many different classes in hardcore. And I've chosen two classes that, to talk more about the should, would, could argument, that at least a Hunter, can do most, if not all, the content available to you in Vanilla WoW. Elite quests are something that's able to be done, right? And a shaman has a lot of versatility to do that as well. So I don't have the experience of sitting on a warrior or a rogue, for example, and being like, I probably have to do this. Or I probably, even if it's really risky, I'm going to have to somehow find a way. I've kind of had the ability to, through my classes toolkit and other things, be able to piece my way through those, but that's just my own experience. And those are the only two classes that I've gotten past the teens. So that's really all I've got on those.
Fair enough. Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of like casters. This is the whole my play style. But my first, the Paladin was the first, and that was mostly just because I just really wanted to play something that I'd never gotten to 60 before, if that makes sense. It wasn't about familiarity or something. I mean, definitely warriors are more difficult. I would be interested in trying that. I'm currently doing a druid and a mage, just because I like those classes. Both of mages in particular are considered pretty easy. Oh well, not pretty easy. I mean, there's the thing. Every class, if you get to 60, is really difficult, right? There is no actual easy option, but
yeah.
Mages are a little bit easier just because you have so many get out of free cards, jail free cards, as was mentioned earlier. One of the funnier ones I think is Hunter, because Hunters die so often. I think it's because the Hunters get a little cocky after they get their pet. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It just seems
the
to
real
be the
hardcore
case.
for a Hunter is level 6 to 10.
Yeah, it's true.
I think hardcore, Hunter is actually hard because you've got the biggest thing with dying leveling is ass pulling, right? And with the pet, if you're not well versed in it, you're worrying about two tunes basically. You're worrying about a hitbox that's tripled or quadrupled the size of everyone else. So it's easy if you know what you're doing and you're pulling from range and you're playing straightforward, right? But if you don't know what you're doing, it's not an easy class.
Yeah, I'd be if I was doing a Hunter, I'd be very hesitant about sending my pet in much at all. I'd probably be pulling with an auto shot or an arcane shot, drag it a bit back to me and then set the pet in. I don't know.
Yeah, man. Hunter hardcore. Who did that?
Yeah, I was going to say, Elena,
terrible
are
idea.
you all Hunters all the time like Tito is with Warriors?
Yes. Yeah, I am. I did, after 3 years, I did finally actually get a level 60.
Nice.
So... Thanks. I don't know if it's much of an achievement after 3 years of trying, but I did get there.
Have you noticed, Elena, that I feel like there are some people who are just they just get a tune and they just get to 60, and it's Rian and Rue actually, they did a duo and they just got 60. I don't think Rian ever
happens.
Died, and but then there's some people
it's.
I was gonna say
me.
Hap. Yeah, well,
no, me.
Hap.
You can say me. It's fine. Everyone knows.
Classic Countdown player Hap, who I think has been on the show before. He was the guy, if anybody doesn't know, in the Horde Countdown Guild who did 2,200 runs of Maradon in vanilla to get that special dagger or whatever.
Classic.
Anyways,
legend.
he plays hardcore all the time, but he's been playing for ages and he hasn't gotten to 60. He might kill me for sharing the story. He did get a one tune to level 59 and 4 turn-ins away from 60 who died.
Yeah.
That would just ruin me. I'd quit the game.
The great thing, he died because he went into that Eastern Plaguelands cave that connects, that one that he forgot that in this game there are elites in that cave.
Yeah, that's you're talking about the
There's a bigger
cave on the
leap.
western edge of Eastern Plaguelands.
Yeah,
That's the
Yeah.
most fucked cave in the game. Everyone knows that. Come on, Ab.
Exactly. He just like his head wasn't in it. He was like three. He was so focused on like, oh my god, I'm gonna do it. I'm like 3 turn-ins from getting this.
Literally
And
the worst cave in the game.
Yeah, and there was a turn-in on the other side of the cave. So he was like, oh, I'll just take this real quick and I'll be there. I'll ding 60, man.
Yeah, and people think it's like you
Oh.
forget that it's fine because you think like you know it's one of the very few caves in the game that has an exit on the other
Yeah.
side. Yeah. Oh my god, guys, let's move on. I want to talk about something that we've all sort of somewhat known about as well with hardcore servers. You know, with them being as popular as they are, the big question on everyone's lips is: will Blizzard actually bring in an official version of a hardcore server? For the last few months, I've very much so been of the opinion that it's been a bit of a foregone conclusion in my mind. I think that they will absolutely be bringing them in. And then we had the leak come out. Someone dug into the code of an upcoming patch or something and found the term hardcore. So that was kind of the cat getting out of the bag. Then just this morning, about 4, 5, 6, 7 hours ago, whatever it was, we had fucking Mike Ibarra throwing out the tweet going like, what would you guys think of hardcore servers in Classic WoW, lol, or something fucking lame, which fuck that guy. But anyway, like just basically confirming that they're coming in the lamest Blizzard possible way. So look, it seems like hardcore servers are very much so going to be a thing. The question is, how will they look when it is actually official? Because as Alenia knows, there's been a whole thing with hardcore servers in terms of like appeals and people dying to disconnects and, the mods just being snowed under with people saying this is bullshit, this wasn't fair, blah, blah, blah. Here's my footage, or I don't have footage. And I'm sure Alenia has a million horror stories of the appeal process that we'll get into later.
I died because I jumped in the Dark Moon cannon. And I died when I landed. Can I appeal it? That's my favorite.
Yeah. But, in getting the pulse of the subreddit over the last week or two, the overwhelmingly popular opinion seems to be that obviously we understand that Blizzard, being the way that they've been with Classic, will more than likely, like what interest would they have in moderating hardcore? The simplest thing to do would simply be legitimately death equals delete. We don't give a fuck how you die. Sucks to be you if you DC'd. If you fucking die, you die. That's the risk you run. And you can have the waiver at the front of the fucking character creation screen. If you die, you die. This is on you. Know what you're getting into. There is no appeal process. Fucking live with it. Personally, I think that is the best way to do it, and people would probably still play them. But Tito, I'll throw it over to you. I mean, what have you thought of in the way of official servers and how they might look?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one because the benefit in having an official server really is limiting the griefers, right? Because if you die, you die. If it's that simple. It's going to be harder for griefers they can't level up and keep doing the same trick over and over again. So there's a benefit there, but outside of that, as we all know, with Blizzard servers and DCs and DDoSes and this and that and the other thing, does hardcore become a no flight path? Because if I'm level 40, there's no fucking way I'm getting on a flight path where I might drop off and die. So I think the community and the add-on team, the Discord team have done a really good job of moderating it. And it's the community and those guys that made this game so popular. And I think the best way to do it is to keep that going, because the other thing is it becomes, income becomes a barrier, because if you don't have a good computer, if you're prone to crashes, if your internet sucks, if you're not in an area where you do get good internet, well then hardcore becomes almost impossible, because you might DC 3 times a run or.
Well, I think the only thing I'd step up and say there is just one word: viability. And as amazing as the hardcore mods have been, and I'm sure Alenia will have a word or two to say on this. Whilst they've been amazing, while the community was still somewhat manageable in terms of size, seeing what it's gotten to over the last few weeks, I would think has almost pushed the moderators to the brink. And if you then introduce an official capacity, I could only think that numbers would only go up again. I don't know, but then you could make the argument that numbers would go down, because if you release this side by side with the SOM 2, you know, people will be playing SOM 2. Hardcore interest will dip because, you know, or they might just play it, you know, off and on, who knows. But I think it would be a very Blizzard thing to push it back on the players and say, hey, do some free work and manage this. I just don't know if it's necessarily a viable option because of how many people would be getting involved. So, Lenya, what do you have to say on that?
Well, when Season of Mastery came out and they brought in the whole Soul of Iron thing where you could opt in to Immortal Existence on the server, what we saw was we had people that were still playing, I guess, what you would call the traditional hardcore mode that we saw, where you use the add-on and, you know, you're restricting yourself to solo self-found and no auction house. And, you know, if you had a DC, you could appeal it to a live person that was volunteering their time in the community. Shout out to the moderating crew. You're right, they are very hardworking. Or we also saw a lot of people just go straight towards a real basic Soul of Iron design, where, you know, they just made guilds and like the only rule was that if you died, you know, you had to re-roll. And I think that and I'm pretty sure we will, have hardcore servers in some capacity, some official ones. I think you're exactly right. I think what they're going to do is just basically make it so you can't res, and that's it.
And something like, do you think they do like an option of a character transfer to another server if you die?
Yeah, I think I suggested that might be one way that Blizz can like monetize the effort that they put into creating that kind of mode, by making it so that after you die, you can't res, but if you want to transfer that character to another server, say it's a 60 and you want to go raid with it, or, you know, just recoup your losses on that toon in some playing capacity, then maybe you can pay like $10 and move it somewhere else.
Bobby's Yacht thanks you for that suggestion.
Hey, look, you know, it's not going to affect people that are playing hardcore in the traditional manner because they will just re-roll. But I know that there will be people out there that will really want to go on and do something after they fail their hardcore attempt, and not just lose all that time they pump into the toon. And I can respect that. We've
got to name Bobby's yacht. Bobby's hypothetical yacht. Something that's safe for stream. I was thinking like the Simpsons reference, like the Live Forever or something. What do you reckon, Tim?
It will not be Bobby's yacht. It will be Steve Ballmer's 10th yacht. So
true. What was I going to say? How about you other guys? Gecko, Tim, Kagar. What do you envision for official hardcore servers? Do you have a dream?
I've given it a fair bit of thought, and I think if there isn't some sort of appeal system, it's not going to appeal to as many people. It would be quite hard to implement an automated appeal system, I think. There are two reasons why a character that dies shouldn't be deleted. One of them is technical, that's a disconnect or a game crash, right? The second one is griefing. And if there are dedicated servers, there may still be griefing. However, there will still be griefing.
Oh,
that's probably one of the biggest issues with trying to have these dedicated servers. If people hop on, they somehow level to level 30 and start griefing the lowest players, they might put people off, kind of thing. But a system-driven appeal system, how would they implement that? They would probably just say,
they can't.
Like Diablo 3, they'd say, tick this box for a hardcore character. If this character dies regardless, it's gone. So in Diablo 3, when you play a hardcore character, if you die, it's automatically deleted. It's not a matter of, choosing to res and not having that option. It's gone.
Yeah, they can barely handle right now, like when loot on Wrath bosses doesn't just disappears, which still occasionally happens. Like people will put in appeals and never hear back, or they'll hear back in like a month.
Yeah.
So
you can't. It's an insane amount of work. Like the appeal process in hardcore that we have, that's been well established and streamlined, I might add, over years, and it's still a crazy amount of effort. to go through the appeal process from like the moderator's side and evaluate it, make sure it's genuine, and let someone go on their way. There's just I honestly don't think Blizzard has the capacity to fund
there's zero way.
Number of people that would need to do it.
No, that wouldn't
it's not happening. Like, just rule
That's
it
why
out
I think
now.
they need to rely on the community, you know, like, because we are putting in the work and there's so many people and skilled programmers and stuff who want to do it for free for the community because they enjoy it and they enjoy that people are having fun. So why would you say no to free labor, basically? It is a simple way to put it. You know, Bethesda has all their open source add-ons and stuff like that, and they work with the community in that way, and they let them do all the mod work because, and then they, you know, they might pick up an employee here or there. I just don't know why Blizzard would. I don't know if those servers make sense. One, because I think the appeal drops off for a lot of people if you just die because of some technical reason, which happens regularly, like the DDoS.
Mm-hmm.
But why would you also say no to all the free work that people are doing? I just don't get it. I hope that it's just a tick box system and not a death equals delete full server.
Let me get spicy, Kagar. I'll throw it over to you, and I think all of you are going to want to say something about this one, and that's totally fine. I'm relatively passionate about this point as well, even though I'm not that, you know, big of a hardcore player. I do, you know, weirdly have a strong stance on this issue. Again, with hardcore getting so popular and so many more talking about it on the subreddit and whatnot, as well as playing the actual, you know, mode of the game, I'm seeing a lot of comments of people kind of rallying against the essence of hardcore. And I'm sure some of you will already know what I'm talking about. When you see people say things like, oh, I should be able to use the AH and I should be able to trade and I should be able to group up with people at any time. This hyper solo mode of gameplay is fucking stupid. It defeats the purpose of an MMO. You know, why do we play these social games to just ignore everyone? Blah, blah, blah. You know, I really disagree with that opinion, and I'll give you my take first, Kagar, before I throw it over to you. But I just think that it's amusing to me to hear people, you know, come to a style of gameplay that has been molded and shaped by players. They've found a different niche little fun way to play the game, and then we've had it grow popular, and the large number of that population coming over to play it is say like, yeah, I'll play your style of game, but let's now retool it to suit me. The whole point of it to me is it is exactly that. It's a fucking hardcore challenge, and people are trying to make a softcore challenge. And I joked about softcore earlier, and this is kind of what it would be. It's that, oh yeah, I want to be able to buy greens and blues on the auction house. I want to be able to group up and you know, kill hard quest mobs with randoms. I want to be able to fucking, you know, trade with people if they get a green that I want, you know, and I get a green that they want. I want to be able to trade with them or just buy something on the spot from them or blah, blah, blah. It really defeats the purpose in my mind. And the whole like joy that you get out of hardcore is that you lived off the land. You waited and prayed. You know, we haven't actually discussed it in this podcast, but it goes without saying how good of a feeling it is when you actually get a really good green drop that not only is good, but that you can actually fucking equip. Oh my God, you know, I got the male thing to drop that's got of the bear, strength and stamina, and I'm a warrior who's level 23, and this is fucking amazing, blah, blah, blah. I think the essence of hardcore comes from being a little bit selfish and a little bit solo. And when you open up options that really water it down and make it easier, I mean, you're just playing softcore then, but that's what a lot of people are crying out for. How do you feel when you hear shit like that and people asking for that on the official servers, Kagar? You might agree. I don't know. Feel free to say whatever.
So I think it's pretty interesting because I've had a number of friends of mine that I have played retail WoW with that have decided to do the hardcore challenge at some point in time, and then a number that have decided not to. And those that have decided to take it on are people, one, that really love Classic in the world, which is something that we've talked about, right? But the people that don't want to take it on didn't like all the constraints and the rules. They would wanted to have just played it as kind of we've been talking about it, where it's a server where like you die and you delete. You can use the AH, you can interact with other players. And as far as whether or not it's actually coming in some, I lack the trust that Blizzard is, because when we look at some, right, when we look at what Blizzard did for the first time, it was all about the end game. They made change it so raid bosses had additional mechanics. They then increased the quest XP from like elite quests and dungeon quests. And I don't believe that Blizzard is spending time creating SOM servers, because if they're only creating servers around one kind of thing, which is what they did last time, is that SOM 2 just going to be hardcore servers? I don't believe that there are going to be enough people in Blizzard camps or elsewhere that are going to be like, all right, we can actually defend putting that significant amount of resources to a new classic WoW that is only going to be hardcore servers. I know people talked about for a little while, and it was a topic of conversation when the SOM servers were shutting down and there was no SOM 2, at least no announcement, that people were thinking, once they saw the hardcore leak, they're like, Blizzard's still developing the hardcore tech, and that's why it hasn't come out yet. Well, like, I don't really know about that. All right, there's a whole lot of other stuff that I feel like Blizzard could do first. I would love to see it actually happen. I would absolutely play it. I might bash and say that I don't have the faith. I would still play the absolute hell out of it should it decide to come out. I'm not sure it will, but I think also getting that official backing from it might get some people to legitimately try it, where if they see it as not just this fan-created mode, which is essentially what it is, despite the popularity that it's now gotten to, that should they see Blizzard actually put their lot behind it in something other than the Soul of Iron buff, I think maybe that would legitimize it even more for those people that originally just saw it as a challenge that people were making to just for the sake of doing, and then like an actual facet of WoW. Like, this is now a feature that you can play World of Warcraft to do, right, and to experience.
But it is that it's a feature, I think, and this is a wild and wacky offshoot of WoW, and I think that personally, when I hear people say, make it so we can use the auction house and the game is still the normal game, but just if I die, I delete. And people are saying it's so stupid, it goes against the ethos of MMOs to not let us socialize with each other. I'm sort of like, but that's fine, because this isn't World of Warcraft. This is literally like a spin-off. It's a little spin-off that you play for a bit of fun on the side. It's okay if it's different. That's my personal opinion. Alenia?
Yeah, look, I agree, and look, I don't mind people saying that they want to change it, and the reason that I don't mind it is because I feel like that is also them wanting to be invested in the community, wanting to buy into the community, and I'll always respect that. I really do hope that we do get official servers. Word on the streets is that they are consulting with some of the members of the hardcore community about it, so. I hope that is going to provide an additional benefit to the WoW player community in general, in terms of providing something that is going to be like practical and functional for hardcore purposes. But at the end of the day, people are going to find their own way. You're always going to have guilds that just make up their own mode. And I mean, that's the whole idea. Is the reason this community exists is because people decided to make up their own mode. And if I've got one big burning hope out of seeing some official hardcore servers, it'll be people just continuing to give themselves permission to come up with new ways to enjoy the game. That'll be a big win.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I do think that, like Josh, what you were saying, there's always going to be these people who want to achieve really difficult achievements without doing the work, so that they can brag about it, right? These are the people who are like, they buy a boosted character from that's been bot boosted and GDKP bot, and then be like, oh, check out like my crazy high level whatever. They just want to take the easy route, and so they see something like hardcore that has a lot of respect for people who actually managed to get 60, and they're like, they want that, but also they want to easy mode it, right?
Yeah.
Because like, I think personally, like the people who really, like you said, like there are people who are just like, who are just not going to be interested in this mode. And guess what? They are playing. Whitemane, as far as I understand, is popping off right now with people who aren't playing hardcore style.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so like right now it isn't just a resurgence because of hardcore.
No.
People want vanilla. They want classic. Whatever form that is. I think hardcore is just an interesting, fun way for some people to play. And not for everyone, and that's totally great. So that will always be there. Like, it's not like we're getting hardcore servers and no normal servers, like we will definitely get that. But yeah, I think we're probably, just to agree with Alenia, we'll probably just get servers that are just death delete and nothing else. I would be interested if they maybe like decide not to have an auction house. But I don't know what like Alenia you would think about that.
I mean, I love the auction house, but of course you do get used to not using it in hardcore. I honestly think at this point it's easy to want things. I'm just going to be excited and grateful and happy if they just give us a hardcore server. That would be absolutely amazing.
Tito, Gecko, I'll throw it over to you. And like Tim, on your point, trust me, no one loves the auction house more than me. And I mean fucking no one. And the context in which I say that is that, I'm not an auction house guru. I'm not the guy buying all the shit and flipping shit and fucking, enjoying the game that way. I mean, I'm the guy that levels 1 million characters, and I love nothing more that, even though people have always traditionally kind of shat on this, style of gameplay, I buy green upgrades for my characters every 2 or 3 levels. I fucking love it. I love the dopamine hit of taking a trip to the auction house, finding a sick item at a decent price and being like, oh my God, what a bargain. I can't believe that's there. I'll buy that. And you get so much more powerful on your character at level 31 and it feels really good. Oh my God, a cheap blue. Fuck yeah. I love that shit. I love the auction house. And yet I'm still
That sounds like your game collection, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. Replacing getting bored of things after 3 seconds. Exactly. But then even as much as I love the auction house, I'm still the first person in line saying get rid of it for hardcore. It should not be a thing for official hardcore servers. Like, it's fucking stupid. The point is hardcore, not softcore. Like you're saying, Tim, don't make it easier. If you water down the achievement, then what does it really mean? Tito, Gecko, I'll throw it over to you guys because, like I said, I'm relatively passionate about this. But Tim hit a really good point there that will fire me up. Gamers are weird. Let's just throw that out there. We all know it. Gamers are a little bit weird. We're a little bit funny. And I'm not as much built like this, but I know a lot of gamers are. We get very, very funny about in-game achievements and little challenges and doing things in-game that says I'm a better gamer than everyone else. And, the achievement system in WoW is, the Came In and Wrath is a great thing to point to, that there are people that go really, really crazy to get achievements that say that I play this game more than anyone else or I play it better than anyone else. I've never really been that guy, but I understand the people that do that. Now, there are obviously a lot of people that want to have the bragging rights to say, hey, I got to 60 in vanilla WoW without dying. Look at me. Look how big my fucking gamer dick is, blah, blah, blah. And I think a little bit of, the passing arguments that we've had on the show in the past come into play here, where, people like dickheads like me bitch about passing culture because we can't do it. Because I'm shit at raiding and because I can't DPS, I then challenge passing culture and say, this thing is fucking stupid. Yeah, it's stupid because you can't do it, dickhead. And I kind of feel the same way about the arguments for the auction house in hardcore, where people are like, make this easier so I can do it. Well, no, that's just because you can't fucking do it doesn't mean you change it for everyone else. That's kind of, again, maybe I'm dipping my toes in the waters of toxicity here, but that's just how I feel about it. Tito, how do you feel when I say that?
Well, I think it's just play the game how you want to play it. At the moment, the solo self-found no trading. A lot of the rules that we've got, a lot of them are made to create the worlds to feel more impactful and etc.
Yeah.
But some of the rules are based on what the add-on could verify and couldn't verify.
Right.
There's nothing really wrong with trading consumables and health, health stones and stuff if you're a class that can create them. But the technical aspect, the technical side of things meant that the rules were made where, unfortunately, we can't tell if you're trading consumables or we can't tell if you're trading blues bought from the auction house. So there's a technical side to it, but overall, I mean, this has been established for a long time in gaming, right? In RuneScape, you've got hardcore and you've got Iron Man. Iron Man is essentially what we're playing, which is solo self-found. You're not allowed to trade. You're not allowed to, buy things. Only things you find yourself you can use. So I want to see a couple of check boxes where and I don't care if they're separate servers. I'd rather they all be on the same server. I'd rather hardcore people played with non-hardcore on the server, and just there was some sort of checkbox which restricted your ability to interact with the client. So you can't trade with people if you've clicked the solo self-found, the Iron Man mode. I don't really care what people are doing, and with achievements in WoW, achievements has obviously in retail it's a big thing. In Classic, everyone hates them, but at the same time, will lose their shit when they see someone running around with a Winter Saber. So, which is the same thing, it's just done in a different way. So, and the Soul of Iron buff everyone was looking for. I think there is a way to do it where just everyone can play how they want. You can tailor your difficulty. Already there's achievements in the hardcore add-on. So, yeah. That's my feelings on it. I could go on for like 2 hours.
No. I get it.
Keep it succinct. Yeah,
it's all good. Gecko.
Yeah, those achievements are super popular too.
Well, I mean, I'm going for one myself. You create I throw myself under the bus and give myself shit, going like, oh, I'm not going to do a dungeon on the way to 60 if I get that far. But like, there's an argument that, and people have been saying this to me, Josh, you might actually be doing it the harder way by never doing a dungeon and never getting access to a blue item.
Exactly. Yeah.
As a paladin, yes. Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Gecko, we'll bring it over to you, mate, and just let us know about everything you've heard there. And yeah, I'm sort of ranting and getting a bit angry about it, but, maybe it is just an each of their own thing.
I was going to raise some similar points to Tito. I was going to talk about the Iron Man thing, because I remember Iron Man and WoW going back to original Wrath. That's when I started getting interested in it. And I used to write a WoW blog back in the day, and I covered that quite substantially around Iron Man. And it was an incredibly challenging mode that you imposed on yourself, and there were all these rules around it. And if you flexed out in different directions, you could call it maybe Tin Man or Bronze Man, or just a slightly easier way of approaching the Iron Man challenge. And it seems to me that the whole hardcore community rose out of that over the years and the iterations of the game. I think
they did.
Yeah. It felt like that. It really felt like it was coming out of the Iron Man scene. And I also like the idea of a button as opposed to a dedicated server. I think that is going to be easier to implement for Blizzard. It's like Diablo 3. You click a button, a little thing pops up and says, "Are you sure?" You're basically setting these restrictions on yourself. You, the player, are choosing this, and you're agreeing with it. And if for some reason your player dies outside of your control, doesn't matter, it's still dead.
One of the checkboxes need to be, have you been drinking?
100%.
And yes, super hard mode.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Gecko, keep going.
Sorry. I wonder how many people have fallen to their deaths within a few minutes of hopping on after a night out or something. I'll just get one more level. So, yeah, see, there you go. I was just going to say that one other thing with, and I'm going back to Diablo 3 again, unfortunately, because that's really got a built-in hardcore thing, and it's what people can identify with. It feels like when you play a hardcore character in Diablo 3, the mobs are a little bit easier to kill, and they have a better drop rate on items that are usable. And when you can't trade and you can't do a lot, right? You're self-sufficient completely. You can't ask another person of a different profession to provide you with profession materials that only their profession can create, so that you can use them to level your profession, because you need leather within blacksmithing or whatever. You can't do that. So it feels like in Diablo 3 you're getting better drops, and I wonder what people's thoughts are around that in terms of a hardcore mode in WoW. If Blizzard implements the checkbox, or the servers, if they will possibly look at tweaking things a bit.
Very good, very good. Guys, we'll hit the home stretch now, wrap it up. Last thing I want to talk about, let's have a bit of fun. Tell me some of your best stories or we'll go tell us some of your best stories regarding your deaths or interactions with griefers is something I actually wanted to raise. Like, I managed to avoid the guy named Gold Toot or whatever that was sitting in stealth at the fucking mines.
Yeah.
I don't know how I avoided him, but I did because I was sitting there at level 6 spamming judgment like a fucking idiot. I'm probably very lucky he either logged off or just I missed him somehow. I have definitely seen my share of griefers. I've, also fallen victim to, the train. So, like, whilst my first hardcore character is this paladin, I did let you guys know I started one other. I started a shaman for an off-stream toon because it was frustrating me a little bit that I couldn't play hardcore unless I was streaming. And so I started an off-stream toon, this horde shaman, and it actually died at level 11 in the cave next to Orgrimmar, because some dude fucking just was running for his life and dumped 4 mobs on top of me and I died instantly. And I was so pissed off. I was really, really pissed off because I was like, I feel like that wasn't my fault. Like, I couldn't see the guy coming around the corner. He appeared out of nowhere and I died. He wasn't griefing, but it just fucking really gave me the shit. So, like, I've kind of died in hardcore, but my first and main character that I'm taking seriously, the shaman, I was playing more recklessly.
You have died in hardcore.
I have died in hardcore.
And you kept playing, Josh, so...
Well, no, I deleted the shaman.
Yeah, exactly. And you kept playing. So you died and you kept playing. So enjoy.
So, I mean, what I would have sort of wanted to ask really is, like, have people had many fun interactions with either, like, bullshit deaths or just straight up griefers? Like, the griefers... The amount of chat about the dragons being dragged over to Westfall and Duskwood, like, it fucking terrifies me. And if I died to that, I'd want to fucking punch someone.
I think it sucks. I think the whole leashing system that Blizzard has for WoW, even for normal WoW, sucks. I think it all needs to be fixed
That would
up.
be like so you mentioned how you would want it to be like a button you can turn on instead of just like a server-wide thing. Which I think does sort of make sense, let it be a player choice. But then you have the same problem you have now. Griefers will just not have the button on and, just do all this stuff forever. So maybe what their answer could be is they work on that leashing mechanic that, like, they abuse. Like, currently the big ones I've been seeing are people dragging the South Shore guards into, like, Silverpine. So if you get near those guards, they flag you for PvP.
Yeah.
Same with the Gromgol guards, and then also they just wreck lobies, obviously. So those are like the big ones. And it's just because you're right. Like, the leashing mechanic in particular is something that they just, I don't know, maybe that's a thing they can go in and just fix on some of these, like, known mobs to stop the griefing.
Yeah.
But then how do you stop the thing that's like somebody like Gold Toot? Right?
Yeah.
Like, they stand on the name mob and kind of thing.
All those griefs, Gold Toot, sitting on the Flight Master, blah, blah, that's all avoidable. None of that is unavoidable. If you die to that, you made a mistake, in my opinion.
I agree.
So it's because it's all super avoidable. Is it really that hard to walk up to a node and wait a half second before you click, or to use left click to interact instead? It's all avoidable. The only thing that's unavoidable, and I think absolutely needs to be fixed, is this South Shore, this guard mechanic where if someone's on the threat table and drops it, if the guards, that split second, they do a pulse to see who else is nearby on the threat table. And if there's no one on the threat table, well, they just got pulsed, and now they're on the threat table, and now they're flagged. And that's just, it's unavoidable, and it sucks. And I think that's the only one that really needs to be fixed. And leashing Terramis through 3 zones. It's fun for one person. Just remove it. Put a hard leash on mobs. I think it's fine.
I think that's fair.
Well said. Anyone else on any of this stuff? Any wild stories you want to tell before we go?
I don't have any griefing ones. Oh, sorry, you go, Alinia.
I was going to say, I think there's a few, having done it for such a long time. I think my favourite one still is now, looking back, when I was still moderating the Hardcore Discord community. And we had a big influx of griefers during the Road to Ragnaros event on Season of Mastery. And we changed the rules so that you could kill griefers basically indiscriminately if they were harassing the community and killing other hardcore players. So the same day that we implemented that, I just happened to be in an area where they were griefing in Westfall, basically next to where I was leveling, so I went over. And essentially, the griefers got so angry that we had implemented this rule and basically ruined their fun, that they actually made a video about me.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that.
I don't know if it's still up, but the gist of it basically was that moderators cheat because they resurrect after fighting griefers. It was hilarious.
I remember. So you were basically doing griefer cleanup, right? And obviously, I was on board with what you're doing, and you've basically said, "Look, I'm going to go take out the trash, Bette Midler style," and you were fucking absolutely cleaning these guys up. If they did, and my understanding is you're basically like, look, if I die, we're not counting it because I'm on cleanup patrol for the fuckwits. And they got you a couple of times and they harassed you for not deleting your character, but you weren't. You were acting in a moderator capacity. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I threw that character out anyway afterwards because I like a lot of us, you know, you like the fresh, clean run. But at the time, they were just losing their minds because just rares had just come at them again. It was hilarious.
Yeah, the hardcore griefers are so pathetic. It's ridiculous. They're really not good players, and they're just so petty. It's ridiculous. On Horde side, I would always slash who 60. I always had my who open while I was playing, so I could see where the griefers were and if they were coming to my zone. And I would always, anytime they changed zone or logged on, I'd post it in guild chat, and then they'd logged on to an alt and started to whisper me and. The banter, like I'm Aussie, you know, Josh. Everyone who listens to this show knows how much we like banter, right? And we're dropping C bombs with our mates, and no one gets really offended. It's fine. The banter coming from these guys was so pathetic. It was really disappointing, to be honest. It was just like your friends don't like you. Else, like
they've got shit chat, and that's the thing.
Wow,
everyone in this game, everyone in fucking World of Warcraft who is shit at PvP, who ganks lobies, who griefs in hardcore. 100% Tito. There's one common denominator there, and they've all got the fucking shittest chat. They've got
They do. It's true. And they're actually usually really bad at the game too, which doesn't help there.
Mate, one guy hit me, I shit you not, and this is again, Tito, along the lines of the quality that you've fucking experienced. I got into it with a bloke the other day who was fucking ganking. I think I told this story. Like, you know, I was on Whitemane on an era server, just dicking around in Duskwood as a rogue. You know, I was no fucking cheap shot, no fucking kidney shot, just having fun, just coming out of stealth and fighting people who, you know, were at full health and it's a fair fight. I'm just having fun as a rogue. And I caught this other rogue there in stealth from my faction doing the same thing, except he was jumping on people at 5% health. I whispered him and said, "You're a fucking loser. Like, mate, why don't you just pick them off when they're full health or whatever, make it a bit more fair?" And like, he dead set hit me with like, "I know you are, but what am I?" Like, I'm like, oh, fucking
I'm rubber and
God.
you're glue.
Classic.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it all in one hit.
It's so disappointing. It's so disappointing that these griefers. I mean, there's in Arugal when we were playing Classic, a lot of the griefers had some really good chat. The level 60 PvP is, but these hardcore griefers are, no.
It's funny because
they need to actually lift their game. Like I need a little bit more effort from them than the insult department.
Hang on, we're not challenging the good griefers to come. Please don't.
Yeah. The Charlie Browns.
We want those, man. We want them. No, please, for the love of God, please show these griefers how it's actually done.
How good. It's funny because a story that I can't share, but I can tell you that, like, you know, Blizzard is aware of the griefers as well, and they are not fans of their work either. And, you know, you can let your mind wander as to what that might lead to. But it's all shit. I agree with you, Tito. They're fuckwits, and you know, people go to funny lengths to get their fucking jollies these days. But anyway, guys, look.
So
go, Tim.
Can I admit real quick that I was briefly a griefer on my druid I currently have, because I've never played on a PvE server before, and I was an alliance character, which I'm normally not, but whatever. I went over to the Barrens to do some of the Ratchet quests, and if you guys know, up in like the swamp area, there's like the thing you have to get an ignition key from a mob.
Yeah, yep.
Right. There were like 10 players, all Horde, waiting for it.
Sludge Fen, I think it's called Sludge Fen.
Yeah, Sludge Fen. And I
Oh,
was like, it was so weird for me to see opposite faction players and not do anything to them, like not get in a fight, not like be worried about them. I was like, that's so weird. It feels weird not like fighting my opposite faction, right? I'm like, whatever. I go up there's like a line of 10 people, but I'm like, I am definitely not waiting in a line that is all members of the opposite faction. Like, I'm sorry. I know this is PvE server, but I'm not doing that. So I Moonfire macroed, got the guy my first. Everyone starts saying like Keck or whatever in their orc chat because they're mad at me. And I realized, here we go. Here's how you PvP in a non-super toxic way on a PvE server. And I just sat there for the next 20 minutes grabbing the spawn every time as the line just continued to grow.
Oh my god!
We'll call that adjustment period while you're adjusting. You get a pass for that one.
Oh my god!
I love it. All right, guys. Look, I think we'll wrap it up there. Unless, look, guys, is there any major points that I've fucked up and not brought up? Or do you think we've pretty much covered it all?
No, but we've covered a good amount for the amount of time we've done.
What were you hoping? Well, tell me, Tito. What did we miss out on? What were you hoping to touch on?
Oh no, there's just some other stuff that might not matter. Like there's technical aspects to the add-on, which
no, go into it, please. Yeah, you did mention you wanted to talk about that.
People lose. It's possible to lose your hardcore run verification in classic hardcore Discord and on the website, because if you don't have your information backed up of what happened to your character the whole way along, they can't prove that you cheated or not, so you won't make it. And so there's some limitations.
You edit the files or some shit?
Yeah, that's right. There's some limitations with the classic UI where and it's a Blizzard thing, and you might notice it with your macros and you're setting up your bars. You set up your bars on your new character, you disconnect, you come back in, oh fuck, I got to set them up again. It's because none of your information is saved unless you do a /reload or unless you log out with the logout button waiting the 20 seconds. So a lot of people might play a 6-hour, 8-hour session in DC. You've just lost 8 hours of playtime on your character in the add-on, and so then the mods can't verify that you didn't cheat in that time, so you can lose your ability to be verified at 60 and get on the website, which a lot of people, it's easy to solo mode, a lot of people don't give a fuck about that, so because what does some website mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't give a fuck. I would know that I did it.
That's right, but a lot of people do care, and as the Discord gets bigger and more and more people join and don't read the rules and don't read about how it works and aren't technically savvy, they a lot of people lose that, and it feels really shit, and they get upset and they get angry, and it's understandable, but there's just no way around it, unfortunately. So all of that could disappear with new Blizzard servers, or the devs are working on some other solutions to hopefully get around that Blizzard system and maybe have a separate client with like similar to Warcraft logs and stuff like that. So but anyway, that's that. Just make sure if you're starting to play, if you've heard this and you want to play hardcore WoW, make sure you read the FAQs, make sure you check the pins in some of the appeal channels so you understand what deaths can be appealed, you understand what add-ons issues can be appealed, and how you can avoid them.
The amount of people I've bumped into that haven't read the rules and they're like, wait, what do you mean I can't group up for quests? It's like, mate, there's not many rules, please fucking read them.
Yeah. So that's basically level 1. But then when you're level 45 and there's some more, and you really want to get verified, if you care that much about it, there's some niche little rules that you really need to do your research to make sure you can get all the way.
Very well said. Anyone on that before we go?
Not on that specific.
All good. Look, guys.
That,
go, Alenia.
Just the community is helpful, so you know, don't be shy to ask questions in the Discord, or as you mentioned at the start of this, Josh. There is a subreddit now, which is just r/WoW Hardcore, your risky click of the day. The community is very helpful. You know, if you don't know something, just ask, and someone will help you out.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to piggyback off that. The community is helpful in more than ways you would expect and think. So, for example, if you go to Skull Rock on Bloodsail Buccaneers right now, you'll notice there are a lot of corpses outside the entrance to that cave. And if you look at the corpses, I believe those corpses are named Beware, Turn Back, Death Awaits, leave now. And then if you walk inside the instance just a little bit, you'll see another corpse that is, I didn't listen. Community
They've
is
been there
always
for a
looking
while
at it.
now.
Yeah.
Very
The little
good.
RP stuff like that's hilarious. I just caught the Deep Run tram, and there's a naked troll in there called Crackhead, walking around. I posted
noticed that,
some screenshots in the Discord, in the Countdown Discord. It's funny.
Very good.
Amazing.
I also do want to generally shout out, one of my favorite aspects of this is the last words that you get to see
Oh, it's
when
perfect.
people die. Like this hunter just died in at like level 12, and his last words were "oops," and I just love that imagery of like. Or some of my favorites are the ones when it's like you see the last words are "Nah, I can solo this," and then they
Yeah.
die to a named mob.
It's brilliant. Yeah, little things like that with the add-on work very, very well. I really think that they should be commended on that one. All right, guys, look, we'll wrap it up there. We'll say our goodbyes. You've all been brilliant. Thank you so much. Tito, I'll start with you, mate. You know, I fucking love you. Mate, I'm sorry I didn't mean to turn this into an English lesson and make fun of you. You know, for what it's worth, I said it the wrong way for fucking years as well. So, you know, that
I
there
still
you
say
go.
it the right way. I don't know what you're talking about.
Thanks so much for coming on, Tito.
Thanks for having me. I'm always trying to get on these, but it just doesn't work out. I'm glad it did.
I'm
Thanks.
glad to have you, mate. Glad it worked out. Gecko, mate, first timer. Thank you so much. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. Thank you very much for having me on.
All good. Any shout outs, mate?
No, but I do want to very quickly plug the Lucky Dip Challenge that I just put into the feedback channel of the Hardcore Discord. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit more, hopefully, over the coming weeks as we approach SOM 2, fingers crossed. Basically, you get somebody... maybe a whole lot of people, hopefully if we get people on board, we'll get someone to randomly roll a race and class.
Oh, yes. You're
Oh,
big
cool.
on the spin the wheel.
That's right, yeah. So I've created some wheel pickers. So you'd roll the class first, or somebody else will roll the class on stream first, and then you choose the race. There's a separate race picker for druids, shaman, and paladins.
If I got a gnome rogue, I'd be so angry. Anyway. Sorry, Tito, I forgot to ask. Any shout outs from you, mate?
Love my mum. That's all.
Oh, now we all feel like pieces of shit. You're the nicest guy here.
Oh no, I got to shout out Tier just because he did it last time to me.
Ah,
And
good on him.
all the old Grim Boys and Medium Pace and Bunnings and all that.
That's the way. That's the way. Tim, mate, always a pleasure. Love chatting. Any shout outs?
Yeah, it's great. As always, shout out the Countdown Guild. Still going strong on Aranicus for Wrath. But we've actually kind of got a little group going on Bloodsail now. We got Half, I mentioned, is back in the fold. He said hi to Elenia, by the way. And we got a number of the other people. We've got like 10 people or so playing right now. Like, it was one of those things where we were like, oh, this will be great, a couple of us. And then all of a sudden, it's really fun. Our Discord is popping off again in a way it hasn't in a little while. So, yeah. So shout out to the Countdown Guild on Bloodsail Buccaneers as well.
Very good. I can't wait to get the crew together. We're going to get a worldwide thing going for whoever's interested. The Countdown crew on SOM 2. We're all going to play on the same server regardless of geography.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't
Love
fucking
it.
wait. Yeah, it's going to be great. Elenia, mate, thank you so much. You have been the best. Any shout outs from you?
No, you're the best, Josh.
Oh,
Shout outs, a couple. First of all, to our homies, Hardcore Cuties on
oh yeah,
Bloodsail Buccaneers.
that's the
Love
guild you
all.
got me into. I should just quickly say, sorry, Elenia, it's funny because I know they've got so many people, they're capped out in the guild. They do purges all the time. I woke up one day and I was guildless and I was like, what the fuck? And I know that like if someone hasn't logged in for a while, they'll kick them out. But I was like, I logged on 48 hours ago. They booted me. And a Grend was watching the stream and it was like, he didn't realize that I'd got booted from Hardcore Cuties. And he's like, oh, Josh, you guildless now. Don't worry, mate. I'll invite you to my guild. And the invite to Hardcore Cuties comes up. And I'm like, mate, that's the guild I just got kicked out of.
Yeah, that's right. I put you both in there because I know you want to be in the same guild, mate.
Oh. Very good. Yeah,
Okay,
shout out
yeah,
to
shout
Hardcore Cuties.
Shout out to them. And one other, just cycling back to the start of this podcast chat. Hardcore All Stars, that World Tour is still ongoing. If you want to watch it for yourself live, the next circuit, Circuit 4, is on Saturday, April the 29th. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It will be casted. The competition has been hectic. The plays have been huge. Get on it and just enjoy the roller coaster.
Very good. And bringing up the rear, Kagar, mate, thank you so much for coming back on the show. You were brilliant. Any shout outs?
Appreciate it, Josh, always. And yeah, I got one for my level 60 guild on the Horde Alliance side on Bloodsail. You know, I know Alliance has gotten a lot of the credit lately, getting the Ragnaros kills and the Nefarian down. But listen, Horde Guild's on the way up right now. We're getting up there in numbers, and there may be some 20-man hardcore content on the Horde side of Bloodsail coming soon. You know, everybody keep your eyes and ears peeled for that one.
What's the name of the
shout
guild?
out to all those guys, and absolutely love it. Thanks, Josh. Really
What's the name of the guild? Sorry, Kago?
Blood and Thunder. Blood and Thunder are 60 Horde Guild.
Very good. Very good. I love it. All right, guys, you've all been brilliant. I'll end the stream there, and hopefully everyone can enjoy this on YouTube later if you couldn't watch it live. As always, you know, you've got the Countdown Discord there if you want to talk with us, all these different things you can do. You know, everyone's on Twitter, blah, blah, blah. You'll find us. Have a good one, guys, and we'll talk to you later. You guys stick around. I'll have a word to you off stream. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Josh.